We're live.
Hello.
How y'all doing?
Good night.
Yeah, we're back. We're in the studio. Boba's in the studio. Bam Bam's in the studio. Look at him. Woo, Bam Bam. My girlfriend's in the studio today. Jen.
Hello.
We'll be talking today about a lot. We're going to start off. Today is an occult kind of day.
Kind of night.
So I have prepared for everyone today a special edition of the Real Vibes podcast. Today, as you can see here, is a huge compilation of information that we've been collecting for quite a while. So this presentation, we've been inspired to kind of start this presentation, but I'll let Jen tell you kind of how we got started on this journey.
Well, it all started because we didn't know what to do on a Tuesday night. So we decided to go watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And we watched it. It was a really good movie, you know, as a lot of Quentin Tarantino movies are. And then he didn't know anything about the Manson murders, about Sharon Tate actually dying, because in this version, spoiler alert, she doesn't die. So she gets to live her happy life. We just get to see her enjoy her life. And then Ricardo's like, why do they keep showing this girl? And I'm just like, oh, because she dies in real life. And he's like, oh, why?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about. I've always stayed away from all the sensational occult bullshit, because it's always been like, I don't want to be lumped in with all the weird fanatic people that are always obsessing over serial murders and all this stuff. You know, a lot of this stuff is coming back in style, and people go on Netflix and they watch like Mindhunter and all this shit, and they think that they
like
know
us.
everything. Yeah.
But because it's on there, it's like what was it? Who's on there a lot? Ted Bundy. Like the Ted Bundy real life recordings, that Ted Bundy movie with Zac Efron, and now there's like the Manson murders all over the place, and Mindhunters, of course.
Yeah,
and
so
many other documentaries come out on Netflix, and we're like, there's a coincidence here. They want everybody to be all up in the serial killers train.
The first thing that I noticed as we were watching the movie, was Roman Polanski. There's like some inferences made about certain characters. So, like, for example, like they show Sharon Tate here and there, and then you told me, Sharon Tate, that's like an actress that was killed or whatever, right?
Yeah, the most famous Manson killing, because she was a Hollywood celebrity. She
Right.
wasn't that famous yet, but she was famous, unfortunately, because she got killed by the Manson family. But
and then we have like Abigail Folger in that movie briefly, and
I didn't even know
we
that.
also have Charles Manson in that movie briefly, and Bruce Lee is in the movie, and JC brings in the movie,
Polanski,
Roman Polanski's in the movie.
Yes.
And so we're watching this movie, and I'm like, oh well, I guess I should probably learn about this. Like,
You asked me. You said, no. I said, what do we say? I say, why did they kill Sharon Tate while she was pregnant? And then the answer was, he asked me that, and I was like, oh, they were just at the wrong place at the wrong time, because that's what everybody says. And then he's just like, that's too much, too much people, too much, things going on for it just to be like random.
The first thing that made me think that it possibly can't be random
which is a good question,
is the fact that as soon as all you have to do is Google it one time, who is Sharon Tate? Oh, she's the wife of Roman Polanski. And as soon as you're like, oh, who's Roman Polanski? Oh, he's the guy who directed Rosemary's Baby. And then you're like, okay, what's Rosemary's Baby? It's a movie about this. Yeah.
Cult about stealing the girl's baby. And it just,
so Roman Polanski makes a movie about a pregnant woman whose baby is jacked for satanic purposes, and then his wife gets murdered and is some weird satanic ritualistic while pregnant. Yeah, yep. I was like, that can't be, like, that has to be.
Yeah, and it happened only a year later after
that
Rosemary's
movie.
Baby.
And that movie was still in theaters when she got murdered. Yeah.
Jesus
so
Christ.
All this murking is just too murky. It's like it's too.
It's too murky.
So here.
Oh shit! Sorry. I'm trying to send the link over.
I'm gonna pull up some of the stuff we're talking about so we can get warmed up to it. So we were talking about Roman Polanski. Well, let's talk about what the murders are. So what we should know about the murders is that Sharon Tate was an actress, right? Before she was killed. She was an actress, and she starred. This was her first movie. It was called Eye of the Devil. So the first movie she ever starred in is this movie. And you can see, like, off top, it's already like,
hello.
It's already creepy. We're being conspiratorial today, okay? So give us a break. We're gonna try and make connections. We might make some leaps that might seem, not, they're not outrageous leaps though. They make
it's like, okay.
Make some sense.
Connections are like,
But here is Sharon Tate in her first role ever, where she is a satanic witch.
Magic.
It's crazy. This bitch is wearing a fucking one.
Trying to lure in the children.
I can still see it. You're being silly.
What year is this?
1965.
The rain will not last, madame. Mama, longer welcome here.
So soon after this role,
I've never seen this, by the way, everybody. I'm learning this as we go too.
This movie is starring Sharon Tate, but is not directed by Roman Polanski. So this is directed by someone else.
Yeah, they didn't meet yet.
Yeah, and then so let's talk about who Roman Polanski is, because he's the next important figure, right? Sharon Tate's husband. We know Sharon Tate is an actress, right? She comes out in this movie Eye of the Devil. And now we're talking about Polanski. So who is Polanski and what did he contribute to this crazy theory? So Polanski is this dude, and you can see him there with Sharon Tate on his right, which was his wife at the time. And then here is Mia Farrow, which is the actress for
his hit movie,
yeah. Rosemary's Baby, which is a satanic movie. We'll play a trailer to that right now next. One thing we should know is that Mia Farrow, she wanted to be, or Sharon Tate wanted to be in Rosemary's Baby. And Polanski wanted her to be in Rosemary's Baby. But Polanski couldn't ask, because now since he was involved with her, it would be conflict of interest if he asked the company bankrolling him for the movie. If he asked them, can Sharon Tate be in the movie, they would probably say no, because it would be conflict of interest, right? So they chose the main actress, and they chose Mia Farrow because she was more Hollywood, because she was married.
She already had a lot of work.
Yeah, she was married to Frank Sinatra at the time. So they were like, oh, she's an all-American star, married to Frank Sinatra. Let's get her on. She had more work than Sharon Tate.
Yeah, she has
more Hollywood cred. But Sharon Tate, the part was kind of designed for her.
Well,
right. So that's Polanski. So let's watch a clip of Rosemary's Baby, which is Polanski's movie. This is and there's spoilers throughout all of this, by the way. So this is
Spoilers, whoever has not
if
seen Rosemary's Baby in 1968.
Yeah, but we are diving in specifically for the esoteric connections and our theory of satanic worship in Hollywood in regards to all these people and how are they all connected, right?
Yep.
So we are gonna be spoiling most of this, and
Yep.
we're not gonna play like stuff that's too detrimental, but you get a good idea of it. So here is Rosemary's Baby. She's like,
good night's sleep.
They drugged her with some crazy
To
shit.
make a baby.
Oh well.
That's Rosemary's husband putting her to sleep.
Yeah. Oh, and fun fact, the house that this movie was filmed in is a hotel. We'll talk about in a few.
The Dakota.
The Dakota.
It's called
yeah.
the Dakota. It's somewhere in New York.
We're gonna talk about why that building is extremely significant in a bit. But
Just to know.
you can see here, she's in a dream. She's tripping out. Right?
She's naked on a boat.
And then this is when the crazy shit starts happening. And this is directed by Roman Polanski.
Is it okay that you're playing this?
Yeah,
Am I gonna get-
it's fine. Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Easy, easy. You got it too high.
Typhoon! Typhoon! It killed 55 people in
She's gonna skip that shit. Okay, here's where it happens. This is like
It's a mattress in the middle of a big, creepy
she
room.
thinks she's dreaming, but in fact she's been drugged.
Yeah, that's another thing about this movie is, I guess at the time, a lot of movies nowadays, they try to play with your head, like, oh, is it real? Is it a dream? Is it in her head? Or blah, blah, blah. But this movie made it clear that this shit was happening.
It
for
was real,
Like,
yeah.
they didn't even bother trying to, like, oh, is it in her head? Is it... They're like, nope, this is happening.
Oh, saggy ass titties.
You know, every satanic movie or any ritual that's going on, there always has to be naked old people. Naked old ladies like this. Even like the most recent movie in Hereditary, same thing. Old, naked people.
Because those are the people that want to suck life out of the young people.
She's awake.
Like,
She sees.
maybe we talk about is there like a participating Satanist that has to be on standby to supervise to make sure all this is accurate? in every single satanic ritual in all movies.
Yeah, there's
Because
a
it's
myth.
about the same thing.
There's a myth
It's
that
like a format they have to follow.
there's a myth that Anton LaVey helped coordinate this, but actually after doing more research, I figured out that that was a false claim.
Yeah, don't believe everything you read, everybody.
But here they're tying
Unless you can confirm that it is true.
her down to the bed,
Please don't change the program on my account.
and then this is her husband, which like basically he traded his wife,
Yeah, her husband was in on it because
and now this
He
is
wanted-
this is Satan himself copulating with a human female, right?
This is no dream. This is really happening.
And they blackback that bitch. So you see,
They tell me you have been bitten by a mouse.
what the heck?
That's why I couldn't come to see you.
Oh, that's all right. We wouldn't want you to jeopardize your health.
Am I forgiven, Father?
Oh, absolutely.
that's kind of pointing out so much right there. It's pointing out the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy of the church. Like, most of those people are always involved with more than half of all the shit that goes down here. Like, it's always like related to that in one way or another. But yeah, so that's Polanski's movie. Here's the cover of it. just in case you wanted to find it. So Polanski directs a movie. That's already like one coincidence. That's the coincidence that started it for me.
Yeah,
That's the coincidence that where I was like, whoa, like really? How can it be? You know, how can someone whose wife was murdered while pregnant have made a movie about
previously made a movie
that's
about somebody who was pregnant and satanic?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Related.
So let's go and check out more about Polanski and see if we can learn a little bit more about him. This is him now.
He's French Polish.
Yeah, this dude grew up. Yeah, he made a movie that I watched called Knife in the Water. It's actually a good movie, and I can see why he
made the movie, or he was in it, or both.
No, he directed it, and he did everything basically.
Okay.
It's a very good movie
Knife
for
in the
its
Water.
time. Yeah, and it has nothing to do with anything, but it's very social. Like it's very sociological. I want to say, like, it's about how people behave, you know, and what leads them to want to do negative things. You know, it's like a mind movie. It's very cool.
Is it old?
It's black and white, and it's super old. Yeah. So Polanski, right? The Mia Farrow is connected to Polanski. Is connected to Sharon Tate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who else are they connected to, right? Because we know who else died in the murders. That's the next question. Well, we know that Abigail Folger, which was a
Folger. Sound familiar?
She was a Harris for the Folger company. She's like multi-millionaire for Folger's Coffee. So like her dad had owned that company, Folger's Coffee, right? Which is pretty insane when we think about. She got
murdered the same night. She was there with Sharon Tate.
Right, she's one of the victims that got
at
murked.
the time. Mm-hmm.
So, and so we look at that and we're like, okay, who else was murdered at the scene, right? Frykowski was murdered on the scene as well. This is Abigail Folger, that's her, and this is Frykowski. This is this guy and this girl. There's a lot of stuff that went on here besides them just being friends. Like, the one thing that is always fucking weird about shit that happened in the 60s and 70s is that people almost always forget all the facts. Like, you ask like someone like, oh, like people are like, yeah, Charles Manson, the crazy serial killer. Like, no, he didn't kill anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He went to jail for murder, even though he never actually committed murder. Like, maybe they should have got him on conspiracy or something like this.
I know, that's crazy. They got him on first-degree murder.
Yeah, but he wasn't even on the physical property. How did he even fucking, you know, it's crazy. So, but, you know, he's been in jail his whole life. So
he's just a recipe. He fits the recipe for a serial killer.
So this is the other victim, right? We'll get to Charles Manson in a bit, but this is Abigail Folger and Frykowski. Who are they? We know this bitch has a lot of money. Yeah. And we know some serious things about her. The first thing we know is that she actually bankrolled Charles Manson. She gave him $10,000 in one occasion. She wanted to bring him to L.A., basically. He was in the Haight-Ashbury district at the time. And Abigail Folger's mom owned a clinic in the Haight-Ashbury district as well. And so she had connections up there. And she was a drug dealer. That's what she was doing up there.
Her mom?
Her dad was military intelligence. Peter Folger. He owns a company, but he was also part of military intelligence. And he was part of PSYOP programs and all this stuff. He had access to drugs, basically. She was one of the first people ever.
Along with Sharon Tate's dad.
Along with Sharon Tate's dad.
Also in the military. So they were homies.
They worked at the Presidio in San Francisco, which is where Michael Aquino, the satanic worshiper of Temple of Set, created that church. And he was also part of Anton LaVey's Church of Satan, these are all the connections that we made as soon as we figured out that this girl Abigail Folger was basically a drug handler for more of these operations than anyone else, and she was bankrolling a lot of people. She had a lot of money. When they killed her, they found like seriously rare drugs in their body, like MDA, MDMA, and amphetamines, which were rare at the time. Wow. The only people that had those drugs were like scientists and the government, you know. Regular people didn't have access to these drugs in the 60s. So, and Frykowski, he for sure was selling MDA. Like, that's what he was known for in Hollywood, for selling MDA. So they were drug dealers. And, you know, Abigail Folger had tons of money. So, Sebring...
Another one of the victims.
Sebring is another one of the victims, and he was a hairdresser.
He was Sharon Tate's ex-fiance, who still hung around even after she remarried with Roman Polanski.
Right. And let me see if I can find something on him here. This freaking fat-ass pile of shit. There's so much shit here. It's ridiculous. But Sebring also has a lot of strange connections with Hollywood.
Even just being a hairdresser.
More than that.
I know.
Yeah, he has connections with Satanism as well. And he has connections. He does. Jay Sebring, when we watched the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, there was a scene where Bruce Lee is in it. Here's a picture of it. We can't actually play this because it's a new movie or whatever. But Bruce Lee is in this movie, right? And one of the reasons he's in it is because the reason he was hanging out in Hollywood at the time was he was kind of fresh on the scene. He was looking to get into Hollywood, right? Well, he was friends with Jay Sebring, and he was training Sharon Tate on, helping her technical skills for a movie role that she had coming up. Yeah. And so Bruce Lee was personal trainer for Sharon Tate, and Jay Sebring, he hooked that relationship up. That's what he did.
Because she had to do like a fight scene in a
movie, yeah.
One scene in this movie, I forgot what it's called, but Dean Martin is in it.
Yeah, and that clip, they have a reenactment of it in this movie as well. So we know that Jay Sebring had that kind of pull, where he had Bruce Lee on, and we know that Bruce Lee also got on Batman because of Jay Sebring, and Jay Sebring himself was on Batman. So
I didn't know that. Yeah. I just learned that today. I didn't know that either.
Let's see if we can pull up one of those videos. There's just so many.
Is it a video
I can't
or
fucking see shit.
Picture?
I think it was a video.
Just type in Jay Sebring, right?
Yeah, that might work.
Yeah, right there.
So this is oh Jesus.
Any luck, Alfred?
I'm afraid not, Master Dick. Your aunt and I have tried every remedy we can think of, but it appears that Chad and Jeremy may well have been stilled forever.
It may not be long before we're all in the same condition. There must be some way out.
Oh, but he's not actually in it. But they make a reference to him.
Oh.
Yeah, but watch that, yeah.
What is it, Alfred?
It seems that they want to go out to get their hair done.
Boy, I thought I'd heard everything.
To Mr. Oceanbrings on Pickford Street.
Mr. Oceanbrings?
Oceanbrings, they call him.
Men's hairstylist?
Oh, it's the latest rage.
Oh, instead of the Sebring, Oceanbrings.
Goes to have his hair coiffed by Mr. Oceanbrings.
Coiffed.
Are there hair dryers at Mr. Oceanbrings? Thanks.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and they have a little shot of it too.
One day without the power to speak, and the whole world.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
So he was in it, but also, freaking Bruce Lee was in Batman as what was his role?
Driver?
No.
Right? No.
He was
Green Hornet.
Green Hornet. That's right. Yeah, he was a Green Hornet in Batman. He also got that role through Jay Sebring. So that's some of the things to keep in mind with him. But the more important thing about Jay Sebring that's freaking crazy is his connections with the occult. Again, it always goes back to that. Everything that we look at is gonna go back to the occult because it all has some kind of connection. So I want to show you guys a movie called Mondo Hollywood. So this movie is crazy because Bobby Beausoleil is in this movie, but so is Jay Sebring. They're all in this movie.
Who is Bobby Beausoleil again?
Okay, now we're going to talk about who Bobby Beausoleil is.
Okay.
Bobby Beausoleil is one of the killers for the Manson family.
Oh, was he the one that was there at the Polanski house?
He's the guy. He's the main guy, yeah. What's his name again? His nickname?
Tex?
Tex, yeah.
Oh, that was him. Oh, that's his real name. Okay.
Yeah, that's his real name.
Bobby Tex Beausoleil.
So here, I'm just kind of scanning through it because it's a lot to intake. But I want to get to the part where Jay Sebring, we can watch his little piece of this movie. It's no coincidence.
So this movie, it's not like a movie.
Hey.
It's a documentary.
It's a documentary
about Hollywood and how trippy and fucked up it is.
But they had all these actors or not actors, some just people.
No, they like all these people agreed to be in this movie. For sure.
Yeah, so all these clips, they're in action, especially for this film.
There he is.
It's not just like clips from other sources that they're just compiling all together.
This is a film. This is an actual movie made by a guy called Mondo Hollywood. He filmed all of it. This isn't clips taken from other shit. Mm-hmm. This isn't a compilation of some sort. It's the movie. This is the movie. Mm-hmm. So, and in this movie, Jay Sebring is featured in here.
Evident. They just looked fantastic. They'd never looked this way before. Sinatra, Dean Martin, Eddie Fisher, Rock Hudson, Kirk Douglas.
He cut hair for all those people.
Wow.
He was doing magic with them. One told the other about it. This is actually a work of art. There are very few.
So, yeah, we got this fool in here. And then after that, we get Bobby Beausoleil's in here. There's all these other stories, too, about people doing crazy shit. And there's other people here that are also involved in Satanism that we won't go into detail because it's kind of going to... Yeah, there's just too much information.
It's a lot.
But here, let's find Bobby. I forget what he's doing in here. Oh, we'll just skip to the end where they point out... What was it that we were looking at?
It was just clips of people, their names, and then where they end up. Okay.
Yeah, at first I thought, because this movie came out in 1967.
67.
At first I thought, wow, like, did they predict his death? But nah, they probably added this in later.
Yeah, no, even I was like, that's too split.
Jay Sebring murdered by the Manson gang. There it is.
Yeah, but like they must have gone back to add more information after 69.
This girl, Gail, married to Frank Zappa. Frank Zappa is a crazy dude who is involved in a lot of this shit as well.
We hear that name a lot.
Yeah, we're going to hear that name a lot, so keep that name in mind, Frank Zappa. He's a guitar player or whatever, but this is that guy that I was showing you earlier. This dude transformed himself into a guru, Baba Ram Das. Remember?
Yeah. PhD.
And then gurus and meditation is the other half of this shit. There he is.
Bobby Beausoleil joined Manson gang, serving life sentence for murder. Yep.
See, those two people were in the same movie. One is a victim of the other. Isn't that ridiculous? Like, one dude killed the other, yet they both participated in the same movie. prior to the murders. No one talks about this.
I see. That is weird. What a coincidence that they.
That's fucking weird.
They didn't have to work with each other though, right? For the movie, because he just got each of them individuals to do scenes just for, with like about themselves.
I don't know the specifics of how it was filmed. Okay. But it's possible.
Either way, though, for him to just coincidentally ask those two people that happen to be associated later in the future, like a big story like a Manson murder.
Yeah.
And it's filmed together 2 years before that is crazy. Crazy coincidence.
Yeah, and then again, so we're going to look at now the connections between Manson and the rest of it, so we can kind of figure out how are all these people involved with each other. Mm-hmm. Those are just some of the victims. There's more of them. We'll get into. We're going in on this one, so we'll get into all of it. But let's talk about the next connection in this and all of this shit. We'll go to all my screenshots. I have plenty of excerpt clips here of a bunch of clippings of stuff that I thought was interesting in regards to all of these murders, theories and shit like this. So one of the things that I noticed in this clip here was that Rosemary of the LaBianca murders, which are 2 victims of the Charles Manson family that were also killed, separate from the Sharon Tate murders, but they are lumped together because the Manson family committed both, supposedly. So these people, Rosemary LaBianca and her husband, they were killed in their house by the Manson family, right? But they always just say, oh, that was just a random killing. It has nothing to do with anything, right?
Yep.
Except this is very suspicious. They came from not too much money, right? She opened up a dress shop next to the Gateway Shopping Plaza on Figueroa Street, next to her husband's grocery store. Her husband owned a grocery store, right?
And her name is Rosemary.
Yeah, and
I got confused for a second.
No. Okay. And and his wife owned this flower shop not flower shop, dress shop or gift store or whatever. Boutique. And then while her business flourished, Rosemary made smart investments in stocks and commodities, and suddenly she was a millionaire. You don't just become suddenly a millionaire.
Well, good.
That's fucking weird. Manson was always hanging around this house because his homies lived down the street. So maybe he knew something there that we don't know, you know?
Yeah.
It's not really comprehensible for it to have been.
Did Manson ever kill poor people?
I don't think so.
I don't think there's any gain in killing poor people. Right?
No.
You don't get famous out killing poor people.
Yeah, they just and get... Plus, you kill black people, then they don't even care. You know?
He didn't kick it with poor people.
Here is the dude he killed, LaBianca. That's him. And this is him and his wife. Right?
The second
and this
killings after the
This
Sharon
is him in his youth. Now, one crazy thing that people don't know is that this dude also was military intelligence. Along with Sharon Tate's dad and Peter Folger, which is Abigail Folger's dad. They were all in military intelligence.
Wow.
This is a picture of him in the military. And they all went to the war.
Was there any evidence of him knowing Peter Folger?
There is only evidence of him being in the same station in San Pedro with Peter Folger. No known relation with Paul Tate, Sharon Tate's dad.
Paul Tate.
But there is some relation that they actually don't know. They say it's possible. Here is the house, the killings or whatever. They wrote "death to pigs" on the wall, supposedly. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm gonna say supposedly because I don't actually know what happened.
Yeah, we can't. This is
the house.
The LaBianca house.
Yeah, some people were saying, "Oh, Walt Disney. This used to be Walt Disney's house," and I looked it up. No.
No.
But he did have enough money to buy one of Walt Disney's old homes, but he sold it. But just it's
it
just
has
not this
nothing
house.
to do
yeah.
with this.
Some people just
Yeah.
conflated those facts
see.
conveniently.
I know that would have been even weirder.
Here's the market
Walt
now.
Disney.
This is now one of
Big
these
saver.
one of these hood markets.
Oh, this is where her boutique used to be.
No, this is where the market used to be.
Oh, market.
Yeah. This is where her boutique used to be right here. It's some fucking gateway, some Chinese store now.
Gateway Circle Pharmacy.
Yeah. Looks like
Very
LA.
LA looking.
Very LA looking. So that's kind of
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
how that developed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Game.
that's like another connection. So we'll continue to look at connections and see what else we got. So here's what I was talking about in San Pedro, California. You see, Lino LaBianca.
Lino. Oh, that's his first name.
That's
Okay.
his first
The
name.
husband.
Lino LaBianca. Yeah.
Okay.
So and then he went to World War II as well, and he came back. He was a technical sergeant. He went back into the Army Reserve, and that's where he was hanging out at San Pedro, Fort MacArthur. So I do know that he was at Fort MacArthur.
Where's that?
It's in San Pedro. Well, it's not there anymore.
Fort
I don't think so.
MacArthur? Okay.
So here it says in L.A., Abigail and Frakowski, but his first name is Wojciech, but his last name is Frakowski, the drug dealer. They lived in Laurel Canyon. That's very important you remember that they live in Laurel Canyon.
Okay.
Her mother was actively doing charity work with the Haight-Ashbury Medical Clinic in San Francisco, where she got involved with volunteer work. This is what I was telling you.
Okay.
She worked in the Haight-Ashbury district. See, at the same time that the Manson family was hanging out in
We're being
Haight-Ashbury.
treated there?
They were being treated because they were having so much sex that they kept getting gonorrhea. So they kept having to go to this clinic for penicillin shots. Yeah, I have a whole nother medical document that shows that. And she actually treated them. But she also gave them money.
So the Manson family, it was going on in L.A. and in San Francisco?
At the same time.
At the same time.
Yeah.
They had a lot of people, right?
For sure.
Participating with him,
So.
That's crazy.
Oh, yeah, this is the same shit. Yeah, so we know that she was up there. I want to show you something crazy. I have a screenshot of it that I think you'll find interesting. Because we lived in SF.
Yep.
And it's pretty crazy to see the stuff that happened up there. But this...
I'm glad we have a picture of what Haight-Ashbury looked like.
Yeah. This is Charlie's house now. This is where he used to live. On 636 Cole Street in the Haight.
Charles Manson's
Charles Manson's old house.
On Cole Street?
On Cole Street. This is where he used to hang out.
Oh.
When he got out of jail. It's the first place he went.
That's crazy.
No, that's not that crazy. The crazy part is, we know that when Charles Manson went to jail, a lot of people don't talk about this either, but he was a member of Scientology.
Oh.
He was a high-ranking member of Scientology, actually. In jail, he was inducted into the cult. And if you see this right here, this is 636 Cole Street. This is where I used to work, right here, Avenue Cyclery. This is where I used to hang out with my boys. Shout out to Frigo Watch. Those guys are fucking awesome. But I've spent some time here, and I never knew that this house here is where Charles Manson was hanging out. And just 2 blocks up, right here, at 407 Cole Street, that's the Process Church of Final Judgment, a satanic cult.
Wow.
And this cult is responsible for 2 murders, and they're an offshoot of Scientology.
Oh.
And Charles Manson had relationships with these guys. They were doing shit at the time. That's not the only thing that's crazy. Here is Haight Street, and on the corner of Haight and Clayton, right here, there's an old hotel. And in this old hotel, there were satanic movies being filmed. And guess who was there? Bobby Beausoleil, of course, because he's part of the Manson family.
Of course.
He's chilling and shit. he happens to be here all the time as well. So he's directly linked to this dude, Kenneth Anger, which we'll get into. So that's where he lived. That's pretty freaky, right?
Yeah. I didn't know that.
So let's look at Manson, so we can see a little bit more about his history. Actually, fuck it. I'm just gonna blast through all of this so that people can just start getting an idea, get warmed up to it.
Yeah, fuck it.
Here's what I was talking about. That the Coffee Harris, Abigail Folger, had the drug MDA in her blood. And Frykowski also had MDA.
So, Polish Playboy Wojtik.
But this is getting into something I don't want to get into yet. But this is crazy because this is real. This is confirmed that the day before the murders happened, some guy sold them bad drugs. Right? And so they went and picked this dude up off the street, and they took him. They kidnapped him.
Wait, who?
Everyone from the Cielo Drive house that was murdered by the Manson family. Abigail Folger, Sharon Tate, Polanski, Frykowski, Jay Sebring. They were all there. And they fucking whipped a man and humiliated him throughout an orgy of sex and drugs. They had, and this one doesn't really get into it, but they also wore satanic like dressings, like robes. They had the whole deal. The Star of David, the candles. They had the whole deal, and they whipped the shit out of this dude. And then when they were murdered, they found all that shit in Sharon Tate's loft upstairs. They found all the paraphernalia for demonic worship, and nobody talks about this. It makes these people like.
We were talking about that last time. How at the time when the murders happened, of course, it was like a big thing. It was really bad. Everybody was shocked by it. So all this information wasn't available at the time. But over time, you know, as the story got less and less popular, nobody really paid attention to it anymore. Then these random information just pops up. And then everybody's like, oh, whatever.
Time has passed, so there's a lot of information that's lost. But at the same time, time has passed, so there's a lot of information we could just get from the computer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just like
back then, I would have to go to the library.
Like 9/11 or something. When it happened at the time, there was none of this. Like nobody really thought much of it because it was just a really bad thing that happened. So questioning it or trying to get too far into it, it's distasteful, I guess.
Here's exactly what I was talking about. Look, initially denied by police, it was later confirmed that remnants of that night's satanic orgy, black hoods, leather aprons, occult items, drug paraphernalia, sadomasochistic devices, were in fact found in the loft above Sharon Tate's living room at Cielo Drive. Right?
Oh, no.
And it says that, other people corroborated that Polanski forced Sharon Tate to make sex tapes for his friends. And it was revealed later that he abused her and forced her to fulfill his sexual fantasies and forced her to take drugs and all this shit, right?
This is being who's quoting this? The photographer or somebody that worked with them?
This is Ed Sanders. This is information that was corroborated later on in time in a book that this dude wrote, but also the police and their records show that they had complaints for these things already.
Oh,
so this is some things that have happened for sure.
So see, that's what I mean. Like there's these all these witness testimonies of other people have been reporting this before, but they didn't make it public until later.
And here's what I was talking about in regards to Frykowski and Folger being drug dealers. Look, police originally suspected drugs as a reason for the murders from the very beginning. However, some people still believe it. That, here says that they were involved in drugs, the occult, sex orgies, satanic parties. But when it comes to Frykowski specifically, who is Frykowski, right? What is he doing with these people?
Yep, that was going to be my next question. Who the hell?
he was reportedly been preparing to become the exclusive LA distributor of a new amphetamine called MDA, with the financial backing of his wealthy girlfriend, Abigail Folger. Now, they found MDA in both of their bodies during the autopsy. And again, this is a very rare drug at the time. Like, people didn't have amphetamines at the time. People had LSD and weed and shit like this, you know, like synthetic drugs were rare.
The usual 60s drugs.
No one was doing meth in the 60s, you know, that's a new thing. But that's just like, you know, again, that is a theory. That cannot be corroborated. That is, you know, reaching based on facts that they found the drugs in their bodies and in the house. But, you know, we can't really go further than that.
Yeah.
Here's a picture of, I found this in a book. Peter Folger, Abigail Folger's dad. Intelligence. This is what he did when he was in the military.
It's just a list of names.
Of names, yeah.
Of people and what they did.
What they did, yeah.
Whoa.
So, here, this article is about Manson, right? Mm-hmm. And when he was in jail, and how he became involved with L. Ron Hubbard and Dianetics and Scientology.
Oh, he got involved with that while he was in jail?
While he was in jail, yeah. Okay. That's when he started reading the books and became an actual Scientologist.
Oh, Hubbard, the founder.
L. Ron Hubbard is a founder
of Scientology.
Yeah, which is directly related with Satanism. Like, L. Ron Hubbard tried to summon some alien child into a human body, right? He tried to get an alien to be reborn in a human child. And he did this with Anton LaVey. But it didn't work.
He was also inspired by Aleister Crowley.
He was inspired by Aleister Crowley, yeah. Which is, everybody knows who Aleister Crowley is. But we'll go into that, don't worry, in case you don't know. So here's what he says. Look, Manson in his own words. A cell partner turned me onto Scientology. With him and another guy, I got pretty heavy into Dianetics and Scientology. Through this and by other studies, I came out of my state of depression. I was understanding myself better, had a positive outlook on life, and knew how to direct my energies to each day and task. This is Manson in his own words. In case people are wondering, is he really a Scientologist? Is this fucking conspiracy bullshit? Like, no.
I know.
He was a Scientologist for sure. Like, that's a fact.
That's a crazy thing that when you told me about that, I was like, well, okay. Nobody has ever said that. Nobody's ever said a word about Charles Manson being a Scientologist. Here's another thing
that the cops found when they raided Spawn Ranch, which is where Charles Manson was hanging out for some time. Mm-hmm. They raided Spawn Ranch, and they got them all on other charges that had nothing to do with the murder. I think like automobile charges of some sort, grand theft or some shit. They found an e-meter in the ranch. You know what an e-meter is?
An e-meter?
An e-meter. Here's another clip for that. It's an electronic device for displaying the electrodermal activity of a human being. It's basically a bullshit detector that just measures the ohmage of your body. People go and touch this shit, and then they use it to kind of rank people, and they some pseudoscience bullshit.
The device is used for auditing in Scientology and I remember watching something before about people like getting stopped by a Scientologist in front of the church of Scientology. Just like sometimes they do that randomly, like on certain days, trying to recruit people or trying to get people to get interested, and that they have that thing out like ready to check people.
Yeah, that's
just
exactly
to like
what it is.
Try to.
And the only people that use this device,
that's it. That's all I know.
just in case, so people don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
The only reason this device exists is for Scientology. Yeah. So like no one else uses this for anything.
Wow.
So we know that he had one in his vicinity. So we know he was a practicing Scientologist. Uh-huh. But we should read about Scientology as well, so people could get an idea of what that means. Because here I want to show Scientology and the Process Church, because the Process Church is a satanic cult that was an offshoot of Scientology. So here, if we find, I'm sure I have it here somewhere, a Wikipedia for the Process Church. Fuck it, let's just search it. Here it is. This is just the Wikipedia. I'll try and give you guys sources for this stuff, but most of it is you can just find it on the internet. So, the Process Church of Final Judgment. This is the church that was across the street from Manson's house in San Francisco. Commonly known as the Process Church, was founded in 1966.
Up the street.
Up the street.
The same street.
Yeah,
Okay.
the same street. On Cole Street.
Yes.
The Process Church was established by MacLean de Grimston in London, and they were both members of the Church of Scientology. The duo were rejected from the church, and that's why they went and started their own bullshit. You see?
Rejected from... Wait.
They were rejected
from the Process Church?
No, they were rejected from the Church of Scientology.
Oh, okay.
And then, and then they started their own new religion called the Process Church. These guys made a magazine where they hosted people on their magazine constantly. There was a group of people on this magazine: the Beatles, Bobby Beausoleil, everyone that we're talking about. They were in this fucking magazine for sure. So this is some crazy shit, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah. So this is another piece of information that's important. Here's San Francisco and the Manson and the Charles Manson murder. See, you can read all about it. Of course, they've always tried to deny that they had any, relationship with Charles Manson, but that's because they were being sued at the time and they didn't want to lose their case. There were all these other things going on, but you guys can read it. Just go to Wikipedia or whatever. Just search Process Church of Final Judgment. You'll know all about them.
Crazy shit.
There's more about them. Let's jump into the rest of the Process Church shit. There's a lot.
Do you have to type it in?
No, it should just pop up here. Oh, here it is. Here's what some of their...
I need to know more, too, because I don't know anything about the Process Church, so...
Yeah, see, this is like someone wrote a book about them. Process. See, this is one of their covers for one of their magazines. Sex, Lucifer, Jehovah, Satan, and the Great Forces.
God.
Right?
Is that a swastika?
No, that's just the symbol that they use. They also use this symbol, which is a Nordic symbol, which is the Zodiac Killer used this symbol.
Ah, that's right.
It's also the white power symbol. It's also it's a very Aryan, Indo-Aryan symbol related to a lot of, white supremacist, Satanist beliefs. Those two things kind of go hand in hand as well. If you dig deep enough, you'll eventually realize that this shit goes really far back. But yeah, those are some of the things about the Process Church. And of course, the Process Church has relations with, regular Satanists and things like this, right? So we'll go back to our little chart here in our screenshots, see what else we got. Here is we'll get into this later, but Sirhan was a Scientologist as well. He's the guy who shot Robert F. Kennedy. And he also had
he's a Scientologist.
He's a Scientologist as well.
Great.
Here's a whole article about what Anton LaVey has to do with Process Church, Charles Manson, San Francisco, the whole deal. This is a crazy thing that happened as well over there. But 2 corpses of 2 Scientology members, right? 15-year-old and 19-year-old were discovered in an alleyway in LA.
Teenagers?
Yeah. They lived in a Scientology commune.
Oh.
Right? And one of them has relations with Bruce Davis, which is one of the guys that killed for Manson. So there is a relationship there. But then this murder was later attributed to the infamous Zodiac Killer.
What?
So this wasn't a Manson killing.
What?
These 2 Scientologists were killed by the Zodiac Killer.
In L.A.?
In L.A., yeah.
I didn't know the Zodiac Killer participated in L.A.
And here's the thing
But
here,
that's
too.
what they think, though, right?
Yeah. That's still an at-large
Yeah,
case.
because they still don't know who he is. Okay.
But at the time, they attributed the murders to the Zodiac Killer.
I see.
So this is another excerpt that I cut out where they say the night before. Now we're talking about Robert F. Kennedy.
Okay.
So who's Robert F. Kennedy? Well, John F. Kennedy, the president, was killed.
Yep.
His brother started going into politics, right?
Robert F. Kennedy is
John F. Kennedy's brother.
Okay.
He came to L.A., right?
Mm-hmm.
He was staying at a hotel in, like, near Hollywood, in, like, the Koreatown area now it's Koreatown, back then it wasn't. But there was a hotel there where he was staying, where he was killed. But the night before the assassination, Bobby Kennedy went to a dinner party at Cielo Drive with Sharon Tate, Roman Polanski, and Abigail Folger, all of them.
And John Frankenheimer?
Yeah. I don't know who that dude is. But
the filmmaker.
Oh, the filmmaker. That's another filmmaker. You're right. Yeah.
Oh.
So,
well, yeah,
he was there at
a
dinner party with these people, and then he leaves, and a dude, a Scientologist called Sirhan, who is also a radical Muslim of some sort, kills Robert F. Kennedy, and then the dude doesn't remember what he did. To this day, he says he doesn't remember what he did or how he did it or even having a motive. He says he doesn't remember any of it.
Yeah.
Could be maybe he doesn't want to get, maybe for whatever reason he wants to believe that. This right here, another connection. I know this is all over the place. We don't have time to organize this, but
I know. But wait. So wait, really quick. For the guy that killed John F. Kennedy. No, not John F. Robert F. Kennedy. He was the one that was found that was reading Catcher in the Rye, right?
Yeah.
He had that book.
Let's talk about that. Let's just go into that before we start going into the Beatles.
Which is what's Catcher in the Rye about, real quick?
Well,
because unless you want, okay.
Yeah. So basically, that dude, fucking killed Robert F. Kennedy. He happened to meet with Polanski and all these people. Well, that's a fact. It's not conspiracy.
Yep.
Now, the guy who killed him, we know he was reading this book, Catcher in the Rye. This book is basically a novel about abuse as a child, right? So, and mental, disturbance, and what it does when you abuse a child, and how they, in the future, how they're mentally incapacitated by the abuse. That's what this book is about.
Wow.
So let's talk about what influence has this book had on people, or what weird coincidence happens to be the reason for carrying that book. Right?
Yep.
It's actually a perfect way to go into the Beatles. So, the first Catcher in the Rye guy was the guy who shot Robert F. Kennedy. I think. So we'll just search Robert F. Kennedy so we can get a good idea of what's going on there. Here it is. Assassination of Robert F. Kennedy. Right? So this again is just straight from Wikipedia. This dude was killed at the Ambassador Hotel, which is now in Koreatown. Right?
That's a sucky photo.
I know, right? Fuck.
17-year-old busboy.
Here's the guy who killed him. Sirhan. Right?
Sirhan fired the shots.
Yep.
Damn.
So, let's try and see if we can get a little about Catcher in the Rye in here. Let's see. Perpetrator. Sirhan. See, Palestinian. That's
Arab.
anti-Zionist. Yeah, so they want to blame it on some crazy shit. But
Yeah.
he was also a Scientologist.
Oh.
So let's see. Or right here, look, check it out. When Sirhan was booked by the police, they found a newspaper article in his pocket. No, that's not what I wanted. They found the book, Catcher in the Rye, right?
They found the book.
There's
Catcher
his
in the Rye.
gun, all this shit, right? It was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Conspiracy theories. Ooh.
What year was this?
1968. 1 year before everyone else got murdered.
Oh, right. Yes, it had to happen before
June.
the Sharon Tate murder.
Yeah. So, yeah, Robert F. Kennedy has dinner with them, and then he gets fucking murked by Scientologists.
68. Okay.
Right?
Too many people dying in the late 60s.
Yeah, I'm
Getting
trying to...
killed all around the same time.
My conspiracy theory, is that maybe all of it wasn't different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe none of it was related at all, but the connections are a little questionable.
Yeah. So, let's see if we can find some more conspiracy.
His eyebrows.
Yeah, that guy looks fucking funny.
He knows how to stand out. He combs his eyebrows up every day till it stays like that. Okay. That's it.
Oh,
Stomach
cool. I can't read it.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it just was like, the font is black, so stupid.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Anyways, yeah, so that's one person who had Catcher in the Rye. The second person who had Catcher in the Rye was this dude, Robert John Bardo. This fucking deranged asshole was obsessed with like all these movie star people, right? Mm-hmm. And he ended up going to this girl's house. This is her house. I think her name is Schaefer or something like that. This is where he killed her. He just rolled up right here and just like, I think just murdered her right there.
Wait, do you stab her?
Yeah.
Or shot her? Because, is it her?
That's her. Rebecca Schaefer.
Rebecca Schaefer. What year is this?
It's much later than the 60s. I think this is like
89?
the 80s. Yeah, it's much later. But it's just funny that he happens to have
the same
book with
Catcher
him.
in the Rye.
Yeah, Catcher in the Rye. John Bardo. Yep, for killing Rebecca Schaefer, you see? And we'll go into the murder.
Who was Rebecca Schaefer?
Bardo carried a red paperback copy of Catcher in the Rye when he murdered Schaefer. Yep.
Which he tossed onto the roof of the building as he fled. Okay, what do I need to go kill this girl tonight?
Let me take
my
this book
so that I can throw it. And then
why did he take a book and then throw it?
He wants somebody to find it.
That's ridiculous, right?
No. He must have gotten inspired because, what is it, 89? And then...
No, but he insists that it wasn't a copycat. He said he just had the book with him. Like, I've watched an interview. He's like,
Who started this? Who the hell decided, I want to read Catcher in the Rye?
Some people think that it's a trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all the people that have the book, like, maybe there's a trigger in there. So to put them into effect. Maybe there's some kind of like mind control assassin of some sort.
Jobby said he read that book, right? My brother.
Yeah, he did say he read that book.
I
haven't read it. I downloaded the book for my Kindle. I'll probably read it later.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. And then I know we're leading up to like the most famous one.
Yeah, we're leading up to the main connection. So let's talk about the Beatles now. So we know that this is a crazy connection between Catcher in the Rye and the Beatles. So let's make that connection first before any other connections. So we know that the dude here is the house where John Lennon was killed.
Not the house. It's a whole like apartment.
The building, yeah.
Building called the Dakota.
The Dakota. Now, and we're not even bullshitting, but this building is the exact building used for Rosemary's Baby. Like, this is where they filmed Rosemary's Baby.
Mm-hmm.
And John Lennon now lives in this house with Yoko Ono, and that's where he dies.
He gets shot in front
He
of
gets
his
shot.
apartment building by, I don't know the guy's name, but the dude, after shooting John Lennon, just sat there reading what book? Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. Here it is. Look, Lennon's assassin, Mark David Chapman, met Anton LaVey's friend Kenneth Anger, an American disciple of Aleister Crowley, which also filmed the movies that we talked about earlier with Bobby Beausoleil and Jay Sebring. That's Kenneth Anger. He developed that movie. He's hanging out with all these people.
Kenneth Anger is the guy that made that Mongo
Yep,
Hollywood?
yep.
Hollywood Mongo?
Yeah,
Whatever.
and he also made a movie called Lucifer Rising, starring Bobby Beausoleil and Anton LaVey. They're both in that movie. And I have the movie here. We'll play clips of it in a bit.
Susan Atkins?
Susan Atkins.
Who's also a participating Tate killer that had appeared with LaVey in performances of a strip club.
But she also played as a vampire for Anton LaVey in San Francisco. She was a stripper. Yeah, they want to always make it out, oh, Charles Manson tricked all these wonderful teenagers that were totally innocent into doing these massive murders. No.
Yeah,
these people are already occultists and Satanists.
They knew what
this bitch was
they
already
knew exactly what they were into.
She was already in Anton LaVey's cult before she even went with the Manson family. You know what I mean? So this is just some
when
connections.
People say like, "Oh, they were just kids. They were just children. They didn't know any better." I'm like,
But I want to focus on
they knew something.
on John Lennon's murder for a second. So we know. Here, I'll just fucking search John Lennon. We know that he was killed by I'm trying to think of the dude who killed him. Oh, Mark David Chapman, right?
I don't remember the name.
So, anyways, John Lennon lives in fucking.
Yeah, Mark David Chapman. Yes,
he lives in the movie where Rosemary's Baby was filmed. Direct relation to Polanski. There's for some reason he just decides that he wants to fucking live there, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, like a lot of famous people live there because it was a really expensive place to live. In
I wonder what other
at
people
the
live there.
time.
That's a good question.
Yeah, there was like a list of different people who live there.
So, and then we know he hanged out with Kenneth Anger, which we saw in the earlier clip that we pulled up. Man, I can't find what I'm looking for. Mark David Chapman. Well, let's just say Mark David Chapman is the guy who killed him. He was also carrying Catcher in the Rye.
Yep.
Right? So that's what I want to get to. I can't seem to find it. But Mark David Chapman was also carrying that fucking book. Maybe we can... Here's some information about it. I should have a cut of it somewhere here.
You have so many.
Yeah. So here it is. And furthermore, he was carrying Catcher in the Rye, as Reagan's assassin.
Copy of. Okay, so we went like backwards. So the first person that
that's right.
had
Ronald
Catcher
Reagan.
in the Rye on him was Lennon, and then
No.
No?
Lennon was in 1980. No, there was another guy who tried
Lennon's
to kill.
80? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well,
no.
then
The first one is Robert Kennedy. He was killed in 1968.
Oh, okay.
And he had Catcher in the Rye.
Okay, then Lennon.
No, and then
there's
someone
more.
tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan.
Oh.
Yeah, and that guy's name is Hinckley. And I know I have something on this dude for sure. I have something on everyone here.
John Hinckley.
But I just have to fucking find it.
Okay.
Yeah, look.
So,
here. John Hinckley. Look, this dude. No, this is the guy.
Obsession with Jodie Foster.
Oh no, this is the guy.
Everybody's obsessed with all these celebrities.
Yeah,
and
this is the
wanting
fucking
to
guy.
Kill them.
This is the guy who shot Ronald Reagan. Believe it or not, he didn't die. He just got shot.
So
yeah.
he shot him, but he didn't die.
But he didn't die. Yeah.
Oh.
So, yeah, as an American man who attempted to assassinate U.S. President Ronald Reagan. He wounded Reagan with a bullet, right?
Ricocheted and hit Reagan in the chest.
He also wounded a bunch of Secret Service agents, right?
Uh-huh.
He was found not guilty by reason of insanity.
Oh, well, good for him.
But this motherfucker was carrying, guess what book? Catcher in the Rye. So this guy also had Catcher in the Rye.
And this happened after the Robert...
I don't know when this happened. Oh, 1981. This happened right at the same time that...
As Lennon?
As Lennon, yeah.
Shit.
So, yeah, Robert F. Kennedy is the first Catcher in the Rye victim.
First one. The Sharon, what's his name?
Sirhan. And then after that was John Lennon. And then Ronald Reagan. And then that actress. So 4 people. 4 Catcher in the Rye incidents. Right?
Yep.
But this particular, let's see if I can find some info on this shit real quick.
That book's a curse. Or it speaks to certain people, I guess. I don't know. That's a big coincidence.
It is, yeah. So let's talk about that. So we're talking about the Beatles now. John Lennon, a victim of Catcher in the Rye.
Yep.
And then what else? What other relations do the Beatles have to all these people? We know that they lived in the house where they filmed Rosemary's Baby, right?
With John Lennon. In the apartment building where they filmed Rosemary's Baby.
But what else did they do? So let's look at other things that they did. So we know that they had a relationship with Aleister Crowley.
Who's Aleister Crowley?
Aleister Crowley is the, kind of like the founder of like all Satanism and occultism in America. He's kind of the one
who put it out there.
In the world, really. He traveled the world. He climbed mountains. He did all kinds of shit. But he studied occultism in the purest form and kind of distributed it. He was a Satanist for sure.
He's crazy, but he did his job. He worked hard to be
the
where
Beatles.
He was.
This is they asked the Beatles, "Why did you put everyone here?" And they said each one of these persons is an inspiration to them. So they got like Edgar Allan Poe, and they got everyone there, right? And there's Aleister Crowley right there. So there's one connection, right, to the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about more connections to the Beatles. So, in relation to the people who were murdered, the Tate LaBianca murders, right? What other relations do they have to these people? Well, we have pictures of them hanging out with no one other than Mia Farrow. There's pictures of the Beatles and Mia Farrow. Where the fuck are all these damn pictures?
Just type in Beatles. Oh no, that's under Krishna.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Put that picture under Krishna. Right there.
It's this damn scrolling. It's whack.
You scroll once and it just goes like.
So here's the Beatles hanging out with this guru, occult leader called, what's this fool's name? Mahabharati or some shit like that. Whatever. But he's part of a cult called Hare Krishna Transcendental Meditation, right? So who else is hanging out with these people? Well, Mia Farrow. Hanging out with the same guru.
Actress in Rosemary's
Baby. Hanging out with the same guru. And who else is hanging out with the same guru? Fucking the Beatles. Sharon Tate. They all hung out with this guru. I have all these pictures. I'm wondering why I can't find them now. But all these people were part of this same group of socialization. So here, let's see if I can find something here that will point specifically at this.
It got warm. We're looking for more photos of the guru guy with other celebrities.
With other Beatles
Other
related.
famous-
Like, well, basically, Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate and Mia Farrow and the Beatles
Yep.
were all hanging out with this guru. Sometimes all together at the same time.
Where was that? In India?
Yep, they went to India for this.
Yeah, we knew that. There's like the Beatles had a whole era in their music where it changed to just that, different instruments, different type of music. They moved away from that bowl cut black and white suit to this.
They did all of that. And that's when when they were out there is when that's when they put Aleister Crowley on there. That's when they also
LSD
created that's when they created the song The White Album, where that supposedly inspired Charles Manson to do all that crazy shit. That's where that came from. So but basically
Helter Skelter, was that in the White Album?
yeah, that was in the White Album as well. All of that was in the White Album, and these motherfuckers were all hanging out. I think I have it under theory, actually, so it won't pop up.
Type it. Should you type it in?
Yeah, here. So here are theories on that other people wrote on the internet regarding to all of it, right? To all of the connections. So here's a guy's article claiming that it's a false flag, but we want to ignore all of the bullshit and we just want to go straight to the pictures that they have in here so you guys can get an idea. So here's what we were talking about, Sebring, right? This is Paul Tate,
Sharon
Tate's dad, who was also military intelligence, also worked in the Presidio.
Master of disguise.
Also worked with Michael Aquino. We'll talk about Michael Aquino in a second, right?
The guy with the flipped up eyebrow.
Yep. Yeah, so who did the murders? These people, right?
Susan Atkins is up there. The one that acted as Anton LaVey's vampire.
Yep.
Vampire stripper.
Bobby Beausoleil, the guy who fucking he's from Texas. He filmed satanic movies and then he joined the Manson gang. Right? So we got all of these people. So we want to look at where it relates to the Beatles. So these guys kind of did a decent job of putting in their theory and showing the house and showing why they think it didn't happen or whatever, or why they think it was orchestrated. I mean, it's possible. I don't think it was orchestrated.
Interesting theory, but that's really.
They point at the carpet. They say, "Look, why would anyone just lay carpet temporarily like this? Like, if they're ballers, like, why would they just have bootleg ass carpet like this?" Like, I get it. I'm more interested in why they were doing satanic shit, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe that's why they got killed. Yeah, but this actually right here, they point out something really important. It's a place called Lookout Mountain. It's actually really close by to their house. And this
the Cielo Drive house?
Yeah. Okay. You can actually see it from there, right?
Lookout Mountain.
Yeah, now it's really close by. So let's look up what is Lookout Mountain, because that place is pretty ridiculous.
Air Force Station?
It's an Air Force station.
Oh.
It's closed now, but they closed it what year? 1969. What did they do there? They fucking filmed movies and developed photographs. That's what they did there. There's a lot of famous people coming in and out. They work with Hollywood. they made movies about bombs and things like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this place was also just like down the street from there, and
Close to their house.
Yeah, close to their house.
Where they got killed.
Yeah. So this is another.
Why did it close down?
Doesn't say.
Didn't
They
say.
fucking
It just
closed it,
coincidentally closed down the same year.
Same year. Yeah, probably because of
Yeah.
maybe what these people in this theory are trying to point out is that maybe this whole thing was a false flag, and it was all just faked. And then that's why they're all like they're done. So then they just close the spot. But I don't think
I
so.
know.
You know, it's just like it's a lot of work.
Who knows?
But
Careful.
I find it weird that there's an American flag there also, because like Polanski's not even fucking American. But whatever, you know.
His wife is.
Yeah, that's true. Ooh, look, nipples. Yeah, so I'm just trying to
graphic content.
Yeah, I can't really show that either. YouTube might act fresh. How about that?
It was only a split second. Okay.
So I'm trying to get to the connection between that and see, that's what happens when you don't cut all this out properly. Yeah, it wasn't in there.
It's okay. It's a lot of shit. I was just like, let's just do it. Whatever you're looking for, just fucking scroll through it.
But yeah, so what were we talking about? We were zooming in on a specific topic just now. Here's a picture of Lookout Mountain and how close it was to their house.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually not super close, but there it is. But you could see it from there, right?
It's a mountain. You can see it.
Yeah, it's a mountain. Yeah.
From their fucking backyard.
Yeah. So that's another screenshot of that. So let's focus here on some more cuts that I made. So this is all still about anger, which we'll get to. I don't want to bring him up just yet because
that's a fun fact.
Yeah. Frank Sinatra divorced Mia Farrow while she was filming Whoop-de-woo.
I didn't even know they were married. But that's not,
And who else was she involved with? She was involved with Woody Allen as well. Right? All right, remember I told you Woody Allen was accused of sexual assault.
Yep.
That he touched some girl, 7-year-old girl.
Oh.
Yeah.
7?
Yeah.
Couple's then 7-year-old adopted daughter Dylan.
But you know what's crazy? Mia Farrow's daughter, you pointed out earlier.
Yeah, her adoptive Korean daughter is now married to Woody Allen.
That's disgusting.
Who was like
Mia
a little
Farrow
girl when
had a relationship with Woody Allen, and then he marries her adopted daughter. That's fucking disgusting. These people are sick.
Yeah, and
this is real.
Significantly older than
and
her.
There's sexual allegations against him. And let's not forget, the Roman Polanski also, just a few years after this whole debacle, went and sodomized a 13-year-old girl, and then he fled the country.
Right,
he's never been
like a current.
If he comes back to America, he'll be arrested. He's been on the run for 40 years or something like that. No one's ever wanted to extradite him or anything.
That's
and
great.
Roman Polanski,
everybody's like, leave Roman Polanski alone, but he
should be getting Me Too'd out of all the people out there. It should be that fucking guy to get Me Too'd, because he did that, you know. And what a coincidence that all these people are sick like that, and they're all into the same bullshit, you know.
Yeah.
There's no fucking coincidence. It's no coincidence at all. So let's look at what I'm trying to get at is fucking where is it? Nope, that's not it. But basically, we know that that's the relationship between them and the Beatles. But what else did the Beatles have to do with anything besides that? Well, we know that the Beatles' White Album was the inspiration for Charles Manson, right? That, or
Yep.
at least that's what he says.
Yes, that's what Charles Manson
That's what he
said.
says. Oh, that's what his inspiration was, right?
It was
So,
his. Somebody said something else too. That who wrote the Helter Skelter book, saying that it was like the directions for Charles Manson to commit murder.
that was Bobby Busole. That was Bugliosi, the lawyer. But Charles Manson was like, "Fuck that guy. He's full of shit."
So
But
he
we
was
can
like,
see
nope.
some fun facts about him. Besides, like, we know that he was a Scientologist, right? We know he went to jail several times. We know he came out of jail or whatever. But there's an interesting fact about Charles Manson that I'm also trying to get at. Here it is. So another relationship between Charles Manson and the Beatles. The whole White Album inspiration thing, right?
Yeah.
So what is that? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
So there's a few articles here. Revolution 9 is also a song by the Beatles, right? That Charles Manson also took as a sign. Now, Revolution 9 he took as a theory for Revelation 9. Revelation 9 is the 9th chapter of the book of Revelation.
Yeah.
Where it says, this is all it says. It says,
This chapter.
it's pretty simple. It says, then the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fallen from heaven to earth. To him was given the key to the bottomless pit. That's talking specifically about Lucifer.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
Key to the bottomless pit.
So this verse, that's what is referring to chapter 9 verse 1 or whatever, right? In Revelations. So Manson takes this and he puts it with his theory of Helter Skelter, which is supposedly his theory.
Right.
But Manson says it's just Bugliosi's theory, that it's not his theory, right? Bugliosi is his lawyer, who's an asshole, who was supposed to be his defender, but then ended up writing a book on him and fucking
and
cashing
he's like,
out.
Okay.
So that guy's a dick. But yeah, so Revelation, right? 9. So that is his theory, and this is how he interprets it, Charles Manson. And here it goes into detail exactly what he believes about Revelation and Helter Skelter or whatever, how he puts it together, his ideology. Here we go.
Bam Bam was just staring at you right now.
Bam Bam.
Oh, you can see him in the video.
Bam Bam.
Like naked
He's
dog.
just chilling.
He's like, when are y'all gonna be done? Huh? I'm trying to go to sleep.
So, here is another kind of like overview blog of everything to do with the Mansons. There's another purported murder called the Tenerelli murder, which some people believe that the Mansons committed, but it was never attributed to them.
Oh.
Yeah, but it has all the same symptoms of it. There's even a diagram of how it happened and everything.
Was there like fuck pigs and all that stuff?
No, they didn't. They didn't do that, but
Okay.
some other things were similar. So yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood again, kind of ramping up people's interest in this, right?
Yeah, that's the latest movie about Sharon Tate and Charles Manson and all of that. Why do you think he decided to release it? Or, Hollywood was okay
I think
with
he's
it,
trying to
obviously,
reinforce, because we have to always remember that Quentin Tarantino is still Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I think he's just kind of trying to like reinforce, like he made like he makes movies like Inglourious Bastards, which is like a revenge movie for Jews. He's also made
Hitler gets shot up.
Yeah, he's made a few movies like this. Django.
They get to
black
kill
people
all
get to kill all the slave owners.
Exactly.
And so now this one is like another movie where like it's an anti-hippie movie where it's like the traditional all-American white male gets to sick his dog on like all the bullshit communist hippies that have crazy radical ideology. So it's like it's the end of the 60s. It's almost like Quentin Tarantino was like, you know, he's giving a revenge movie to all the people who were victims of this tragedy.
Yeah.
According to how it looks by the book, though, not like he's not going into like any conspiracy theories. He's just accepting it for how it's written, and then that's it. You know, like nothing past that. That's it.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
So I'm trying to find more information here about the Beatles, but I'll just tell you guys. But basically, well, Aleister Crowley has a book called The Winged Beetle, and on one of the album covers, I don't remember which one it is, but this symbol with the wings is on there. This is a book by Aleister Crowley, right? So we know he had a lot of stuff to do with them, but where do they get involved more specifically? Well, we know they're friends with Mia Farrow, and we know they're friends with all these people, right? But also, did you know that Yoko Ono was part of this gallery called the Indica Gallery, right? And in this gallery, also
in LA?
Roman Polanski. No, this is in London.
Okay, got it.
Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate would go to play on Yoko Ono's art piece, and her art piece was like some kind of chessboard, looked like this, right? So Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate went to the Indica Art Gallery, and they would play on this chessboard, and all of the pieces are white. So the whole goal was you're supposed to try and remember what your pieces are, right? And if you can keep track of the game to see how smart you are, it's like a harder chess or whatever. This is just an art piece, really. You know, they never bought the artwork, but they were fucking
around,
with it. They were around there. They were always hanging out at this place.
Okay.
Now, who else was hanging out at this place? Yoko Ono, right? Now, this is the craziest thing. That same time that Polanski was there, the Beatles were there. And that's where he met Yoko Ono. This art piece right here is the one.
That's where John Lennon and Yoko Ono met?
This is where they met. Now, he met her here, and this is her art piece where you had to stand up on a ladder and point at the wall, at the roof with a magnifying glass, and there was just a little tag that said yes. What? And that was it. That was the art piece. And John Lennon thought that shit was genius. So, that's how they became.
That's how he fell in love.
Yeah, he's like, oh, damn, this shit's genius.
That's interesting.
Here's a picture of these fuckers at, or here's a picture of it on the outside or whatever. Indica. Named after weed. Way ahead of his time.
Right.
Way ahead of his time, right? All right, who was Yoko Ono before she met the Beatles?
Yes. She's
right?
a Japanese lady in the
This
UK.
is who she was before she met the Beatles. Look. She was fucking...
Let's see it.
In this movie.
In a movie?
She's in a movie called Satan's Bed.
Oh, God.
Satan's Bed.
Of course she is.
Now, I have the trailer for it here. Let's watch it. This is Yoko Ono, 1965.
Okay. Oh. Alright. Naked lady tied to a bed. Check. Wait, is that her on the bed?
Yeah, no, actually. Let's see where she's at. Oh, look, some booty.
Stop it. Stop it.
She plays like a younger girl here.
Oh, that one? That has to be her. Yeah, that looks like her.
That's her. And they take this girl and they do all the same things they do to the other girl.
Escape was impossible from the prison they made for her. Cindy, the innocent high school kids.
Some straight diabolical shit.
It's crazy. What year is this? It looks old.
1965.
Oh, it's not that old.
This is just a shitty
It's
quality
just-
video.
Uh-oh. This is a trailer?
Yeah, this is the trailer.
Yeah, I bet
They
a lot of
saw her
people were
young
just like,
body, and they went wild.
what the hell? Did that music change?
Yeah, the music just changed because it went wild. Jazz is wild, remember?
Like heavy metal.
L'amour. Sex wasn't enough. They were after every kick they could get or give.
Whoa.
Straight sodomizing her.
So she just acted as one of these victims.
Yeah,
right?
one of the victims. Yeah.
Okay.
She acted as a Japanese girl who came to America who just ended up getting exploited.
Oh wow.
So this is Yoko Ono before she met the Beatles. She made a movie about Satan. This is like, you know, it's kind of all the same deal.
All in at the time, making movies about Satan, and just I don't know. It's just like, have you been a satanic movie? No. Well, we don't want you. I don't know. Was it because like all those people were still around at the time, and it was like.
Okay, well let's talk about another person who was at that place called Indica, Kenneth Anger.
The art gallery. Okay.
Yeah. Now Kenneth Anger, who is this dude, right?
Mhm.
So, this guy is fucking a crazy connection between all these people as well. Now he is. Where is it? He made a movie called Lucifer Rising. Obviously,
That he said it was dedicated to Aleister Crowley.
dedicated to Aleister Crowley, called Lucifer Rising. And who does he have in the movie? Anton LaVey. So let me see if we can find.
And Anton LaVey is who?
He is the founder of the Church of Satan.
The founder of the Church of Satan.
So we'll
That's
just
crazy.
search his name.
That's crazy to say.
So let's see. I know we have.
He did his work
Here it
to
is.
earn that title.
And before that, he had another movie called Scorpio Rising, which was also demonic.
Scorpio Rising, Lucifer Rising, Scorpio Rising.
Yeah. But I'm trying to find the movie. Freaking. Oh, here, Lucifer Rising.
Oh, not that one. Oh no.
I remember we can't play it because the music is copyrighted.
Oh, okay.
But Lucifer Rising. Why is this movie incredible?
Music by Bobby Beausoleil.
Exactly.
Bobby Tex Beausoleil.
Yeah. He made the music for this movie.
Oh, he's a musician too.
Yeah. Well, that's what he originally was before anything else.
Oh.
So yeah, he made the music for it, but he made it later on after he went to jail. Kenneth Anger went back to him and said, "Hey, you need to finish that because you said you were gonna finish it."
Oh wow! After he went to jail.
Yeah, after he went to jail.
He still got work.
No, they had already filmed it all, but he couldn't release it without the soundtrack. So he went back to him and said, "Yo, I need you to give me, you know, the soundtrack."
Oh, okay.
So he finished it for him.
Mm-hmm.
But that's Lucifer Rising.
Okay.
Trippy. So he made that movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
What else did Kenneth Anger do? He made the movie that I showed you with Jay Sebring and Bobby Beausoleil, right? And he
Mongo Hollywood.
Mongo Hollywood.
Yeah.
He also wrote a book called Hollywood Babylon.
Oh.
And in this book, he talked about fucking crazy shit that goes on in Hollywood that people don't know about.
Oh my god.
Really, really old book though. Like this talks about things that happened in like the 1920s. I just started reading this. It's kind of interesting. And yeah, he talks about all Charlie Chaplin, all kinds of people in there.
Dang. Okay, that's interesting.
Then he has a movie
scary.
called
Hollywood history is really scary.
Here, Invocation of My Demon Brother. Yeah, this is another short film that he made.
Brother.
Yeah. This is all Kenneth Anger as well.
Okay.
It's just super trippy. Just demonic shit all day long. Like it just I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Just weird. Okay.
Doing drugs. And again, the people in these movies
oh my god,
are famous people. Anton LaVey. There he is.
Oh, there he is. In his full.
That's Anton LaVey.
Oh, that's so the picture of him dressed like that is from this.
It's from this movie.
This film?
Yeah.
Okay. Shit.
And Kenneth Anger directed this film. So it's not random or anything like that. Like, these people know each other. Oh, shit. No. Stop glitching.
Is that the actual soundtrack? From
That's the actual soundtrack, but...
Okay, I
but
thought it was, like,
my computer
malfunctioning.
started lagging. Yeah, it did start lagging. Bullshit.
Well,
damn, too much Lucifer in my
crazy.
computer.
I know,
started
you're
lagging.
fucking getting possessed.
But, alright, this guy's crazy. He did all this satanic shit, right? All based in San Francisco and in Los Angeles. So now let's check. This is him today. This is him.
Okay, California.
He's
need
giving
help.
he's giving a talk, a lecture on Aleister Crowley called "Do What Thou Wilt." This is Kenneth Anger today, or not today, but
Welcome to
9 years ago. Yeah.
I'm Claudia Bester. I'm the Director of Public Programs and Education. And
Who are you?
Look at here. He is literally. There he is.
Who is
he
that?
He looks like shit today.
Who's that? Kenneth Anger?
Curtain.
Yeah.
Oh well, he old now.
Because it's subtle.
So let's hear what he has to say.
Been given to friends. He never tried to break into the mass market until much later. In the 20s, he had a financial problem.
People.
Very best colors that he could buy. And the same that Van Gogh used, and the great skull or the rock, because there's this tremendous rock which dominates the town, which is Cefalu or Cephalodium. It's the big skull. And it's gorgeous. It's very powerful. And on top are ruins of ancient temples, because it's various cultures have moved through that area in Sicily. And
okay, guys.
The Scarlet Woman. And you do have this recurring of sexual images, because basically that's what Crowley was all about. His religion was solar, not lunar. Solar, phallic religion. A man's religion.
Okay.
With like minds earlier.
So he's just going off about Crowley.
Sense of humor that I absolutely
about how great he is.
Am at one with. And I said, wow, he's hip in the way that I think I'm hip.
He's going to go pee.
But we get the same gags. Now, Crowley loved movies. This is absolutely not known unless you've read every single bit of his diary, which I have. There was a little cinema in the town of Cefalu where he watched movies.
Only one in my eye.
I'm talking about 1921 to 1923, when Mussolini finally caught up with what he was doing down there and expelled him. But during that time, they'd walk down the hill, about a 15-minute walk into the town of Cefalu, and there'd be this little rinky-dink movie house that didn't even have seats like you. It had board benches. And the silent films were run with a little rinky-dink piano, a live accompaniment, which is always so nice to have a live music with silent images. And he said he would make tantalizing descriptions.
He's talking about how much Aleister Crowley likes movies. And he's talking about a rinky-dink bench and a rinky-dink theater.
Whenever they run out of ideas about what the 42-cent stamp, I guess it's...
Yeah, in the beginning, he kind of was going off a little bit.
Subtle. It's...
well, he's not the only one that's inspired by Aleister Crowley. there seems to
in
be a
his
lot
diary,
of
he shows that he
musicians
was quite
and famous
determined
people
to add
that are like,
another.
yeah, everything Aleister Crowley said speaks to me, and it makes sense, and do it that
You want to
wilt
see
and
where
all
he's
that.
at today?
Who?
Kenneth Anger. That was in 2000.
That wasn't today?
That was like 15, 20,
My
20
God,
years
but
ago.
he's all shriveled
You want
up
to see
by
him
now.
today?
Sure.
Look
That's
at
why
this.
we're here.
Look at no, that's not him. That was him like some years ago as well. There he
Oh
is.
my God, that scared me.
This
Why
nigga
do
is
you do
Lucifer
this?
himself.
An artist who needs to create.
How old is
to
he?
feel fulfilled. And as far as the public
There, that's him like a few years ago. Look at him. This fool's a ghoul.
Well, I need to know how old he is because
look at him.
He's still alive.
You're telling me that this dude, man, hey, Satan caught up to him. You know what I mean? Satan sucked him dry.
God.
Man, see, that's why you don't want to.
He did without wilt withering.
Fool is withering away. Yeah, so he wrote some books about Hollywood Babylon. He had Bobby Beausoleil in his movies. He had Anton LaVey in his movies. He had relations with the Indica place. He was in Haight-Ashbury at the time.
Wow.
He lived right around the corner from fucking...
He's just another one that got inspired by
by all of this.
All the sataning.
Yeah, by all of it. It's crazy how crazy this stuff is. It's just ridiculous. So that's Kenneth Anger. So we know he had Anton LaVey. So now let's talk about the classic, neoclassic. Is that the dog scratching? It is.
It is? Come on, Lola. You heard that? I didn't even hear anything. My ears are numb.
Yeah, so let's talk about the classic relationships between these murderers and Satanism. Like Satanism as we know it, not transcendental meditation and not gurus in India and not Church of Scientology and not the Process Church, but actual just straight up Satanism. So
Good
we'll start
old Satanism.
We'll start with Susan Atkins. Here we have her with Anton LaVey. There's a picture of it. So it's, you know,
it's confirmed that she was there.
But she also talked about it in an interview and admitted it.
Yes. Okay, good.
And she wrote a book, and she wrote it in the book as well.
Oh.
But, oh no.
She was all up in there.
Yeah, see? So that's her right there.
That's her in the coffin?
Yeah, in the coffin. That's Susan Atkins.
Wow.
Here's a picture of her as the vampire stripper.
Okay. Okay.
That's her as a vampire stripper.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if we can get some more. No, thank you. Actually, yeah, there's a video here of Susan Atkins. I'll play it at minute 11:19. So let's play that. Everyone will get a better idea of exactly what we're talking about.
What are you doing? Yes, open it. Uh-oh, did it?
I think this shit's lagging again.
Oh, no.
There it goes. Come on, you can do it. 19 seconds.
Going so slow now.
That's too much loose computer. I'm not particularly sure. Something's been causing it to
You said
lag.
too much. We must slow down your computer.
But this video at 11 minutes, 19 seconds. Let's go to that. It's some ridiculous conspiracy video, but it's funny.
Just random clips of scary shit.
Here we go. So here.
Here to do the devil's business.
The dark allure of Satanism and the mystique of the vampire link Sharon Tate and Susan Atkins in a web of mystery. They seem bound together by destiny, protagonists in a drama decreed by fate. There are parallels in their lives that defy logic. In 1967, Susan Atkins was an aspiring actress, making her living as a stripper in San Francisco's North Beach. Strangely enough, she worked under the pseudonym of Sharon King. She was hired by Anton Szandor LaVey, the high priest of the Church of Satan, to play the part of a vampire in a topless witches revue held at a San Francisco nightclub. Atkins had written of this performance.
I was the perfect sexy vampire, ready for my casket lying at the center of the stage. I knew I'd never be able to get into that casket for real without getting stoned. I popped the acid tab into my mouth.
Of course.
I had shaken several people when I had risen from the casket and pointed a long, blood-red fingernail at the audience and marked them as my next victims.
The same year that Susan Atkins made her debut as a vampire, Sharon Tate was cast by her husband-to-be, Roman Polanski, as a vampire's victim in his film The Dance of the Vampires.
Hands above Paul's head as a blessing.
I didn't know that at all.
Yeah. And then the video gets ridiculous. But yeah, that's crazy, right?
Yeah. So, well, Susan Atkins definitely had history with Satanism before she became famous for being part of the Manson family.
Here's another picture. Oh, wait, that's the same one. Better quality, though.
Yeah.
So now let's look at Anton LaVey and see what he has to contribute to this.
The high priest of the Church of Satan. Which was in San Francisco, right?
Yep, the Church of Satan was founded in San Francisco. But Anton LaVey, he spent a lot of time down here in LA as well.
Oh, I mean, it's right down the street, right? San Francisco, LA, San Francisco, LA.
Yeah, this is Anton LaVey's house in San Francisco.
All black.
Yeah, murdered out.
What street was it on?
This is on California Street.
Oh.
Me and Johnny want to go visit this.
Is anybody living there now?
Yeah, the house has been demolished and rebuilt though.
Shit, that's not enough.
Satanism is a philosophy that has been.
So I want to talk about the connection between Sharon Tate, her father, Abigail Folger, her father, which both worked in the Presidio of San Francisco, which is
military dudes.
It's a military base right next to the Golden Gate Bridge in the woods, and in that place there was a guy who worked there called Michael Aquino. And so Anton LaVey, he founded the Church of Satan, right? Mm-hmm. And from this branched off the other dude, Michael Aquino. So we'll go into these two connections real quick. Here's Anton LaVey advocating for Satanism on a show, which, by the way, defended himself. Like, I don't condone these people's behavior, but Jesus Christ, the people who are like interviewing him make themselves look like fucking assholes, you know?
Yeah.
And
he just looks so much smarter than them.
And
oh yeah,
spoken up for the devil.
Watched this
Everybody
last
that's
night.
made rules and regulations concerning the
Anton
devil
LaVey,
or the devil's
he had a response for every single thing that the host had to say, even if it was really insulting.
Well, I'm not too righteous, but on the other hand, I think you're a bit of a dingaling. Let's face it.
See, he called him a dingaling.
Well, you're selling some kind of a snake oil. You got very shifty little eyes, very close together too. They tell a story.
I mean, he better get used to it because obviously.
Yes, of course.
What
is the story that you'd like to tell us?
The story is that I think that the devil has been the guy that's kept the church in business for many, many years. Without him and the concept of evil, where would the church be?
Well, where would Notre Dame be if they couldn't play Southern Methodist? They got to have opposition. Is that the point?
That's right. They have to have opposition.
So you're supplying, what, a loyal opposition?
Well, I'm supplying a much-needed opposition. The word Satan only means adversary.
Now, I could just picture this now. About 10 days after you're frozen, some minister is going to tiptoe over and turn off your electricity.
Or bring a blowtorch in.
Yeah. Well, a blowtorch would be make you right at home. What are the other arrangements?
Well, that's another thing. You see, the concept of the devil is a multitude of interpretations. Now, one of the realms of hell, Tartarus, the lowest of all, is...
Yeah, these guys, I mean, look at him. He's freaking got everything on.
I've been fooling around with your equipment.
Never mind.
He got the whole checklist.
The whole checklist.
Yeah.
There's lie around on the beach or something like that.
I know it's lie around.
So that's him, you know, kind of like advocating for Satanism.
Right.
It's just so crazy.
I know, it's so crazy. That's.
Here's another one where he's kind of like
formulated and organized into a productive social force that takes or accepts the premise that man is not a creature to be redeemed, but one who must recognize within himself his own potential, his own liabilities, and deal with them accordingly. We feel as Nietzsche felt when he obviously wrote Also sprach Zarathustra. Opinion is...
And yeah, he's talking about Nietzsche and like... There's a lot of people who are occultists who will always refer to Nietzsche and his writings because he is an Indo-Aryan. And even like, you know, Hitler took some of his writings and like, you know, he's Germanic. He's, you know, it's very white power-ish. Even though it has nothing to do with that. But, you know, these people, that's just how they...
Sorry, my dog's being very needy. She just hopped onto my lap. It's okay. Don't mind her.
So what does that have to do with Michael Aquino, right?
Talking to Dr. Aquino and his wife, who you are a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army.
Correct.
Now, and how does the Army feel about you being head of the Temple of Set?
The Army is known about...
So Michael Aquino was part of Anton LaVey's church, and then he branched off and made his own called the Temple of Set. Mm-hmm. But he is a military intelligence officer for the Army, for the Navy, who worked with Paul Tate and Peter Folger in the Presidio. Yeah, and then here he is talking about
religion for
Satanism.
The entire span of my Army career, which began in 1968. And
Satanic Spock.
there was a reasonable amount of curiosity, as there has been all the way along, with
and his hair.
What exactly is this strange and unusual thing? And I've talked about it in much the same way that I've talked here today on your show about it. And other than that, the Army has paid very little attention to it, the same as it would to anybody who is, say, a follower of Hinduism or of Buddhism or any other slightly unusual religion today.
So you just go about your Army duties and it's fine and okay?
Yeah. I was a follower of the Satanist Church in Chicago here. On Walpurgis Night, I was the head acolyte for that specific ceremony. And at the end of it, we wound up murdering someone. And
a person?
Yes, ma'am. It wasn't anybody that I knew, and I reported it. But once I had reported it and decided that to quit the Satanist Church, I started receiving threatening phone calls. People would come up to my door who I didn't know, and all they'd do is say, go back to the church.
Yeah, because it's important to know that Michael Aquino, this dude, he also has allegations of sexual misconduct. It's some people took him to court because there was like a preschool around there, and they were saying that they were taking kids from there.
Oh God!
Like some sick shit.
Walk away.
All in the Presidio.
And who was the grotto leader?
See, so in the stabbing of the guy?
I don't remember.
Bing, 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 bing.
In great detail.
So this whole thing is about that, and just confronting him about because the Satanists are always saying, "Oh, we don't actually do anything like evil," you know, like
yeah, I know, like
but then they do.
What's the whole ritual thing for? What's the purpose of that? I don't know if Anton LaVey has explained that. Like, why do they have to get into a circle and act weird and lift fire up in the air and have weird cloaks on and having to chant some weird stuff? Why? If Satanism is all about just doing what you want, finding yourself, la-di-da, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So these people are all kind of related in that way, right? Between Satanism in San Francisco, Anton LaVey, Michael Aquino. So let's read a little bit more about Michael Aquino. There's actually a badass movie in here that I should just put that movie on so people can watch it.
What movie?
It's with that what's that early Mexican dude who was like interviewing everyone?
Geraldo Rivera?
Geraldo Rivera, yeah. That dude. Geraldo.
That one, the first one, right?
Yeah, the first one. So here, like, everyone's there. It's kind of funny seeing them all together, Anton LaVey and...
Aleister Crowley. Wait a minute, Aleister Crowley died, like, really early, right?
Anton LaVey.
Anton LaVey, Michael
Often
Aquino.
Satanism seems to be a personal psychodrama, a kind of license for strange, sometimes violent behavior.
Swastikas?
Swastikas?
So let's look at...
Laws are broken.
I believe that hate is necessary in a controlled way just as much as love is necessary.
The other face of adult Satanism is violent and fiendish.
So let's, I want to just...
There's a lot of shit in this. It's a whole movie's length, so...
We have chosen
yeah, you can watch this in your own time, the whole thing.
Will be asking the youngest person on Oklahoma's death row, just 17 when he killed in the name of Satan, why he murdered his own parents.
Ugh.
And to Southern California, where we will ask the parents of children in the notorious McMartin preschool why they claim their kids were satanically abused. And to London,
my
where rock
goodness.
star Ozzy Osbourne will...
Yeah, they just bring in Ozzy Osbourne for no reason. Like, go home.
Well, because, you know, I guess at the time he showed lots of signs of Satanism. So they're like, oh, Ozzy, what do you feel about this? Your music inspired people for this and that. And at your shows, everybody acts like this and that. And he's like,
here,
oh.
look, he's trying to make metal look bad.
He bit like work, I don't know. Just doing regular. It's just for the looks.
Here's a crazy story of these kids
Some people.
who killed another kid.
To a nice boy from a good Catholic school and a fine middle-class family. Sure, he was obsessed by the symbols. This is what his room looked like on the night of the murder and suicide. But heavy metal is not answer enough.
Yeah, okay, I'm trying to blame it on heavy metal assholes. And then he brings
like
on
when they try to
Ozzy
blame
Osbourne.
violence on video games right now.
It was a sacrifice to prove allegiance to Satan, to prove my hatred towards society and everything.
Well, hatred towards society is one thing, Sean, but how does Satan make you commit murder?
Yeah, but Geraldo, Sean, in that particular situation, Sean Sellers...
This is Tom Wedge, an expert in Satanism, who is with Sean in the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. Yeah,
right.
Go ahead, quickly.
He's an
Sean
expert
had broken
in
every one of
Satanism?
the 10 Commandments except thou shalt not commit murder. And after he worshipped before the altar and asked for powers from Satan, he went out to do this. Technically, it was a human sacrifice.
Okay, I got to move on. You guys stand by. We'll get back to you. Stay with us, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get into the mind of another all-American boy who came under the influence of Satanism and took part in a crime without passion or motive. He and his pals beat another classmate to death. We'll be right back.
Yeah, they did. Crazy.
Satan related?
Yeah.
Beating another classmate to death?
For sure, yeah.
Okay, this is the best that I...
Third that.
They literally beat him into a bloody pulp.
Damn. And what, in the name of Satan?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then he says I would never kill again, but like, it's kind of too late. They're trying to blame it on Iron Maiden. But they were drawing satanic shit all over the place.
Megadeth, Ozzy Osbourne,
It's me trying to save my air, my water, my trees, my wildlife. It's me on that camera, man.
Of course. But here's Anton LaVey's daughter.
In this country. Founding it about 25 years ago, Zena?
She's beautiful.
Can you tell us?
I expect nothing less from a Satan worshiper.
No,
all that worshiping better go to something.
Yeah, if his daughter was ugly, if she was buck nasty, then it wouldn't be worth it.
It wouldn't be worth it. Nope, she's beautiful, so okay.
But look at them eyebrows, though. What's wrong with her eyebrow there?
What year is it? Eyebrows have evolved.
The religion is worldwide. We have members
Zena LaVey. Wow, very exotic name.
Oh, look, there he is.
Temple of Set, also a colonel, interestingly enough, in the United States Army. What is it, this Satanism?
I think that there is some confusion tonight because this same term means something different to Satanists than it does to Christians in the United States. By our own standards, the people who you've shown in these film clips would not be Satanists, either present or in the past. Rather, they would be the failures of a conventional religion.
I appreciate your opinion. What is it, sir, then? What is Satanism?
Well, originally the Church of Satan, when it was founded, was composed not of people with a hatred for Christianity, but of people who, by and large, were agnostics and atheists, because they felt that the institutions which had arisen around Christianity had failed in their moral commitment. So Satanism itself became an emphasis on rational self-interest and on taking responsibility for your own intellectual and ethical decisions.
Rational self-interest, you call it?
Yes.
See, rational self-interest,
yep.
But the keyword, the interest in the self, like not anyone else.
Yeah.
One thing we do know that Satanism has in common with other religions is the belief that the devil can inhabit your body. Remember the movie Exorcist?
Get the fuck out of here. Then he starts bringing in all these...
Did I talk about demonic possession?
Constitutionally protected religions.
I believe that hate is necessary in a controlled way just as much as love is.
Yeah, we already heard that. But yeah, Geraldo Rivera is pretty buck wild.
Who else said that?
He goes
Somebody
out there.
else talked about hate. Never mind. It'll come to me later.
Occurring at the Presidio, the time period when
they
terrible events were
challenged them on the whole
place.
Child abuse thing.
I was assigned to the National Defense University in Washington, D.C., and my wife was out there living with me.
But is it not a fact that a 3.5-year-old girl identified you as the alleged perpetrator of molestation?
No, as a matter of fact, it is not the case. An accusation was made by her stepfather, who was an Army chaplain, speaking on behalf of this child. In her original interview with the FBI, she denied ever being molested.
Well, I've seen you are innocent until proven guilty. You were never charged in this case. I don't want to belabor the point. I have seen, however, the affidavits for the search warrant of your home, and they indicate the child is speaking to the authorities, not her father.
This was after she had been subjected to therapy.
Let's say you are innocent of that. You are no longer at the Presidio. You are now in St. Louis, but you are still a serving officer, a colonel in the United States Army. Do you feel it is inconsistent with a high-ranking officer sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States that you are also a practicing Satanist?
Not in the least. The Army has known of my religion for the last 20 years. There has never been a problem with it, any more than there's a problem with other members of minority religions.
But let me read from the Satanic Bible. Quote, this is the number one, commandment. Death to the weakling, wealth to the strong. How can you believe this and still uphold the Constitution of the United States? Death to the weakling?
Well, for one thing, what you're looking at there is a highly polemical book that was never meant to be taken literally.
Oh, using the same cop-out as the church.
Aside from what allegedly happened to your daughter, which I know you allege was part of a satanic cult, and having nothing to do with this man, I state again for the record, what is your feeling, sir, on the fact that a serving officer in the United States Army...
Yeah, they just get on him. pretty crazy.
They took us in an old caboose.
Uh-oh.
And they had these things they called Spains.
Spains?
Yes, Spains. They stuck it up my butt.
Who stuck it?
Oh my God.
Your dad?
I listened to kids' testimonies.
Two doctors have provided medical evidence that from a very early age, this boy has been repeatedly abused. His mother goes further. She claims the sexual abuse happened as part of a satanic ritual.
Do you allege your husband was part of a satanic cult?
I allege that he was the high priest of a satanic cult.
David, the boy's father, has never been formally charged.
All of this in San Francisco, ridiculous, right?
Oh my God.
And he goes on to bring up all these cases of Satanism and how it's involved with all these things. He brings on Charles Manson and, you know, the San Francisco murders are also pretty grisly.
What was the condition of the body when you found it?
It had a number of unusual wounds on it. One of the most unusual things was a design carved into the chest of the individual. And once we examined it more closely, it was an upside-down pentagram.
The Devil's Pentagram, the inverted five-pointed star found on the unidentified corpse of St. Joseph's victim, is apparently the principal signature of Satanists. Like a recurring nightmare, it shows up at crime scenes and in their graffiti everywhere.
Yeah, this is the guy.
And they asked me if I would like to join a satanic cult.
Ritual crime was apparently a regular occurrence at this apartment. In this case of
San
torture
Francisco
and murder,
house.
the victim has never been identified. For purposes of this case, he was called John Doe number 60.
The first cut would be to the lips that sealed the person's mouth for all eternity. They also poured wax, I guess, in the eyes, and that sealed their eyes for all eternity.
They did much more to John Doe number 60, but we'll spare you the details. Caught and convicted of murder, kidnapping, and ritual abuse, St. Joseph and another cult member are currently serving long prison sentences. Ed remains free, although he claims only to have been a reluctant participant in the murder of John Doe 60. He does admit bringing a teenager here to be chained up and ritualistically abused.
How can you say you have no guilt when you bring a 17-year-old kid in here, you help shackle him to a radiator, and then participate in his torture and sexual abuse? Well, I never participated in torture, and no torture was allowed of him. You would...
But he didn't say no sexual abuse. Yeah. This is how it went down. This is what these people were doing. And this is all going on in San Francisco, too. You know, it's not far-fetched.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, all over the place.
It's a small town. How is there so much of this bullshit?
For real.
Have belonged, who tell of babies being bred for sacrifice. Take a look.
Read what they do, Guy. They use blood in their rituals, and the blood that has the most power is baby's blood.
In the classic horror film Rosemary's Baby, Mia Farrow is drawn into the clutches of a satanic cult and is married to the devil.
This is no dream. This is really happening.
She conceives the Antichrist, providing the group with a living symbol of Satan to be worshipped and adored.
God is dead!
As sickening and unbelievable as it sounds, bearing children for use in satanic rituals may really be happening.
My daughter, who I named Wendy, was sacrificed at birth with an upside-down cross and then taken outside and buried. My son, they kept and let live till 2 years old, and then he was sacrificed.
Michael and I had a son, and he was dedicated to Satan at birth. And at 6 months of age, he was sacrificed to Satan.
It is most common for the heart to be taken from the child and offered to Satan.
These women say they speak from personal experience.
They go through all that
No, that's
work
anecdotal
for 9
evidence.
months, and then just fucking, here you go.
But they got paid a lot of money to do it. It was...
that's insane. What's the reason for it now?
Look at this. Is a drawing that a kid
breeders.
drew. It hurts. Please don't hurt me anymore, Daddy. I'll be good, I promise. That's terrible. I mean, hey, dude, this guy Geraldo Rivera, he went in on these people. But, of course, he was also probably looking for popularity or whatever, you know? And all these people think that bagging on Satanists is that easy, you know?
Yeah, I know, because...
They think that they're just, like, ridiculous. They don't realize that everyone has the it's in everyone's power to want to be that, you know.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of people who don't say that they're Satanists openly, but are equally as disgusting.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
There's some people that do like the nastiest shit, and and aren't Satanists.
Yeah, we can talk
like
about
other serial killers that have done worse, or
even
equally
this.
as
Look,
bad things.
One thing that is also linked to Charles Manson is Boys Town, America's
Boys
greatest
Town.
child sex scandal. Boys Town.
You know.
Charles Manson definitely went to Boys Town because he was like a fucked up kid. They sent him there.
Boys Town, is that a place?
Boys Town is it's like a Boy Scout boys school.
Oh no.
Right, but I'll play the video so people can just watch it, because it's out there.
Homosexual prostitution.
It's out there. Of course, this is like some bullshit video.
It's highly edited.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
But financial crime is only half the story. This is the true story of Lawrence King. It is the story of a cancer at the heart of America and of its continuing cover-up at the highest level. One man is attempting to uncover the full story. John DeCamp is among the most highly decorated Vietnam veterans. A former Republican state senator in Lincoln, Nebraska, he is now a lawyer fighting the legacy of Lawrence King's abuse of power.
It's a web of intrigue that starts in our Holy of Holies, Boys Town, Nebraska, one of the most respected institutions in the United States, and spreads out like a spider web to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and
right up to the steps of the...
And believe it or not, Charles
Capitol,
Manson
steps
went
of the
there when he
White
was
House,
14.
Involves some of the most respected and powerful and
Most
richest
respected
businessmen in this United
institution.
States of America. And the centerpiece of the entire web is the use of children for sex and drug dealing and drug couriers, the compromising of politicians, the compromising of businessmen, but worst of all, the corruption of key institutions of government that have the duty and responsibility to make sure these things never happen.
For John DeCamp, the trail starts in a unique town just outside Omaha.
World-famed Boys Town is in the news again.
Made famous by an Oscar-winning film, Boys Town is America's favorite children's charity. It was founded in 1917 by a...
I mean, just look at the fucking
Boys
name
Town.
of it.
I know, Boys Town. Why would
It just sounds
Why?
disgusting. I don't want to
It's
send
like-
my kid to Boys Town.
I know, that's...
Would you send your kid to
Would you
fucking
send
Neverland? No. Would you send your kid to Boys Town? No. But these people, like, they took in kids that had nothing, you know? Orphans and
Catholic priest, Father
fucked up shit.
Flanagan.
And it was a religious thing. The Catholic Church ran that shit.
Oh, yeah, I was... Yeah.
Yeah. They made millions of dollars and just got off on it.
In terms of
In
being
Nebraska.
a dealer of children, in terms of being...
This guy though, he got busted
40
for
mil-
it. He got busted for it. He went. He's
that they
done.
documented he stole, and in terms of using and compromising and corrupting one after another politicians.
Yeah, he bribed people. He would film them and use them.
So
you know,
this is in connection because
Charles Manson was here.
went
Yeah,
there,
he
and
went
it
there.
has
No, and
been-
Charles Manson was abused sexually there.
Yeah.
He writes about it, or whoever wrote a book for him
Mhm.
while he was in jail, and he talks about it in a written down interview. He says that he was sexually abused while he was in Boys Town.
We can only name the ringleaders. Besides Larry King, they were department store...
See, Larry King. Larry King. And he was indicted for this shit too.
What?
Yeah. Like he got off though. Like he paid a lot of money. We can read the
Larry King.
look,
is
here's a
like-
whole
he's
book on it. Look.
creepy to begin with.
In case people were like, "Oh, it's bullshit." No, look.
Before he became a monster.
A story of Charles Manson time at Father Flanagan's Boys Town. Like it's real. Charles Manson was at Boys Town.
Oh God.
Part of a crazy, sick, satanic government conspiracy.
He was an orphan, right? Did he have parents?
Who,
growing
Charles
up?
Manson?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
I remember he said like his parents.
He had a mom, but like she was a prostitute. He was born out of wedlock to a 16-year-old prostitute.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so we can see here. This is like, so we don't have to watch the whole video, but these people testified, right? A lot of them got killed, and then this dude, he went in for 10 years, 15 years. He served 10 years of a 15-year prison. Oh, he's out already.
Well, oh no.
Yeah, Boys Town, the White House, and the devil. So he was connected to like just a lot of stuff going on, you know. And Larry King was involved. Larry King got off though. He, you know, he paid some crazy amount of money. He paid off people. I think he paid off like 3 kids like $100,000. Oh
shit.
Yeah, hush money.
How much did Michael? Who's more famous, Larry King or Michael Jackson? Michael Jackson.
Nobody even knows about Larry King. You see?
I know. I didn't.
And this happened. This happened. This is for real. Like,
That's
actually, one person mentioned it to him in one of his interviews. They mentioned Boys Town, and he just shut it off. So this is another thing about Charles Manson that people don't realize. He was already involved in child abuse and sexual trafficking of children. That seems to be the main motivation.
She didn't get
That's
it from
why
nowhere.
When we hear Alex Jones say, "Oh, the Satanists are taking over the world," and blah blah blah, like he's not like too far off. People don't like. It sounds like craziness just because he's like rambling, but
like the way that other people talk about it that don't know much about it is just like, oh, that's crazy. It's just crazy people, crazy, and sure, it is crazy, but.
Yeah,
you know,
all I
there's
hear
a
people
reason
say.
for it. People don't just like, oh, I'm gonna like Anton LaVey. He didn't just become the fucking high priest of the Church of Satan for nothing. Just because he's like, oh, I like to drink my own blood and be creepy for no reason. There's a whole other philosophy that those people can find that they relate to, and like it's the same as any religion.
Yeah, and other connections. There's just so many.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not like people make this stuff up. Like,
in
this interview.
That's the generation of the 60s. I'm not a generation of the 60s. I'm a generation of the 30s. I played on the same ball club that your old man made movies of and someone so they feel better.
Here he talks about Mia Farrow.
I'd probably get
What's ever happened to you in your life? But I know you're here, and to most people that suggests that you must have done something pretty bad.
When you see Sharon Tate's body laying there all naked, murdered, dead, do you think I had something to do with that? That was the altar. It had nothing to do with me. It was the turnaround of the whole world. It was the Aryan woman that was being bought up from the head for Rosemary's baby. They was the cult. Did they tell you about all the film that they got with the dogs and the chauffeurs that came out of the black and white when Hugh Brenner and Peter Sellers paid $30,000 to get the videotapes back that they had done with the pornography where they was gobbling on each other's knobs in the closet with Sharon, poor Sharon, beautiful Sharon. I'll give you something
right there. And
Poor Sharon, beautiful Sharon.
That's what you were talking about. That somebody obtained those videos of them performing any weird occultish rituals.
And it's in the police reports that did happen. When the police went to go gather the tapes, somehow they got lost in time or whatever. And like, obviously he's saying he paid $30,000 for them to get him back. Yeah. So, and he's talking about what's in the tapes. Like he knows these people better than we know these people. He's like, oh, poor old Sharon Tate. Like, no, you mean devil worshipping ass Sharon Tate, who was whipping drug dealers, making movies about the devil, and fucking making sodomizing films where they murder dogs and shit. Like,
oh my god.
This is what he's talking about, you see?
Yeah.
Beneficial to your awareness.
But people, I hate, like, they were like, oh yeah, Charles Manson, oh yeah, that guy's batshit crazy, yo. And like, and they just play videos of him going, boo, 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 like, you know, like, but what about listening to him speak coherently, you know?
I'm like, I don't know, I have mixed feelings about Charles Manson just because of, how everybody built him up to be this patsy of everything, every bad thing that's ever happened in life.
He spent more years. He spent like 3/4 of his life in jail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's ridiculous.
I mean, I don't doubt that he's done bad shit in his life.
Yeah, he agrees that
reputation that he has now.
He had sex with girls that were underage, but he was abused as a child, you know, and like all kinds of stuff happened to him. So it's like
a guy comes from the University of Southern California into the criminally insane ward, and he says, "I am your doctor. I am here to help you." Okay, I need help. What happened in so-and-so? How do you do such and such? How does it work for so-and-so? And when you go through it, how does your mind? And he said, if you come to help me, why are you asking me the question? He gathers valid information, and if I don't give him information, he'll send this guy in with a big syringe to drug me down out of my head to where I can't stand up.
That stuff happens in prison?
Happens. What do you think's been happening to me for the last 20 years?
Yeah, he's been, and that's true. He's been, you know, beaten, used, and he talks about Mia Farrow, but he also talks about something else important somewhere here, like towards the end.
Men in uniform, and judge those men who fought for God and country, for a cross and Bible. Them men were forced to do what they had to do. There's no such thing as criminals and bad guys. And I didn't know the difference. I heard your father on TV. Because you don't have the backbone in your own system. And I get swamped and stepped on, you know.
How's that going to solve the problem of crime, though?
One world court that can...
What do you want them to think of their father?
It doesn't...
Yeah, so, I mean, you know, it's just crazy. We want to look for a Mia Farrow connection.
Yeah.
We want to look for a Rosemary's Babies connection, and he gave it to us. You know what I mean? He gave it to us. Like,
yeah,
that's it right there.
You brought that up in that random interview.
Yeah.
In the 90s.
Now, that's not the only connection that Charles Manson had.
Oh.
Let's not forget that he also had a connection with the Beach Boys.
Oh, yeah. I almost forgot about that. He was a musician and all that, too.
Yeah, and the Beach Boys, Terry Melcher was their producer, and the house that Sharon Tate lived in before they lived in it, Terry Melcher used it. There. Yeah, he used to record music there before anything.
So that's in the movie when the, fake Charles Manson came looking for Terry Melcher, and then he's like, oh, they don't live here anymore. That's accurate?
That's accurate, yeah. But we don't know why he really went there.
Yeah, we don't know why.
Patricia Krenwinkel, college dropout, a one-time Manson family member, and soon-to-be convicted murderer.
A one-time Manson family member? What does that mean?
Walk on.
Are other
we don't want to get
people's,
copyrighted.
Okay.
I just want to get to the stories of... here's Brian Wilson.
Something that I felt in my soul. Rather than just
Beach
car
Boys
songs,
producer.
surf songs, something more introspective, like taking a good look at yourself, see how you feel, and then see what you should do to improve yourself. That was my way of coping with those kind of things that come up in every man's life.
Fans expecting sounds of summer, songs of surfing, idealistic young love, and cars got something different. And that was Brian's delicate soul bared within groundbreaking pop compositions.
Oh no, copyright.
The alleged pop genius was also notoriously known for his excessive drug binges, often indulging in grass, coke, and LSD on a daily basis.
Oh shit.
As for Dennis, nobody in the band took him seriously. His brothers thumbed him away from the studio, often asserting that crazy Dennis doesn't belong here.
Yeah, but where does he come in with Charles? Let's see. The relationship with Charles is crazy.
They went back to Charlie and told him, we've met somebody that could be an incredible entree for you into the music business. Then they brought Charlie and a bunch of the other girls back to Dennis's house.
Dennis walks in. Manson had moved his family in. They were smoking marijuana. eating cookies, and Dennis thought it was kind of a fun situation. They lived with Dennis for several months.
Yeah, they really did live in his house.
Divorce with
Wait,
Carol,
okay.
And coming home to a house full of semi-naked or
Before
naked women,
everything.
the enjoyer of sex
of
that he was.
happy
that
hippies living in
that
his
was
house.
The catalyst that Manson used.
Yeah, Manson used the girls. He was a pimp. He used the girls to
yeah.
get connections, to get everything he wanted. Because people always, if you have girls that are willing to do anything for you, you can get anything you want.
I dedicate. Am I yelling? I dedicate this song.
No copyright for me, no thank you.
Became charmed by Charlie and gave him money. There were ladies in Malibu gave him money.
Have a big laugh. A lot of guys like to hang around me because I'm underground. I'm what you call cool. I'm what everybody tries to be. When I'm down on the street, I ride a motorcycle. I got a lot of girls. I sing a lot of music. I play. I'm him. You know, that's my road.
Hello. I am a mechanical man. A mechanical man, and I do the best I can because I have my family.
Wilson's home literally turned
Spawn's
into Spawn
movie
Ranch.
ranch.
Yeah, that's
An
fool
old
lived there
Western movie
too.
set Charlie and the
One of the
family
Beach Boys lived at
while
Spawn
they
Ranch.
bounced to and
Oh.
from 14400 Sunset Boulevard.
I didn't like that place. That was creepy. That was drugs. That was all the drugs and crap and people coming in and out with all their crap. And it was just like a drug den.
Yikes.
During the day, Dennis and Charlie lounged by the pool, smoking pot, rapping to one another about religion, politics, and philosophy for hours on end.
We talked about something very esoteric within, like a family. A brother has a secret, but allows you to know it in an art form.
See, so I mean, come on. There's so much connections here, money wise, you know, all these things, all of it. But there was another dude that they killed, another victim of the Manson murders. Let me see if I can find it. There was a dude that was another drug dealer. He sold mescaline, and they cut off that dude's ear, and then eventually they killed him and buried him in his own backyard. And they stole his cars.
One single ear.
Yeah.
Duh.
Crazy, right?
They Van Gogh'd him.
They did. So let me see if I can find some information on that. Yeah, it's just so crazy how many connections there are. But between everything that we've already discovered, let's go back to my notes. See if there's anything else we missed on here. Because there's so many notes here.
Your screenshot clippings.
Yeah. The devil is beautiful. Most people think he's ugly, but he's not. That's a personal quote of Sharon Tate. Okay.
You say so.
Susan Atkins was in the Temple of Set. We know that. Sorry. Yeah. And, you know, Church of Satan. And then we know that, you know, he was part of Scientology. And, you know, Process Church of Final Judgment. We know the connection between the Process Church.
Mm-hmm. Beatles lyrics interpreted by Manson.
Yeah, we haven't really dived into the Beatles because my notes are all over the place. But, yeah, some of those. So here, Maharishi, that's the yogi that they would all go see in India.
Oh, the guru that everybody has gone to see, all the celebrities gone to see in India.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the more deeper meaning behind all of it. Like what is Satanism in its core? Right? There is no religion higher than truth. And there's the same symbol and the Ouroboros snake and the Zionist symbol and an Egyptian symbol in the middle. This is Blavatsky, an author that is an inspiration to the guy who founded the KKK and also to Hitler. So there's like some Indo-Aryan roots to a lot of Satanism, right? So, and Sammy Davis Jr. is in here for some weird ass reason. He's like the only black Satanist that I've seen so far. There's even like pictures of him, and he made a movie too about Satan.
Something devil related.
Yeah, some devil bullshit that he made. Fucking Sammy Davis Jr. I can't even take him serious. But there's a picture that I have. Oh, here it is. Poor devil. Right?
Starring as Sammy Davis Jr. starring as poor devil.
But there's also
Whatever
a picture.
That means.
There's also a picture of him with Anton LaVey. Watch, look.
Everybody was homies. Anton LaVey is like, yeah, I'm friends with all these.
There he is. Michael
people.
Aquino and Anton LaVey together with Sammy Davis Jr.
Wow.
And if you thought that wasn't weird enough. Oh wait, we already check this out.
Hello, homies and cronies.
This is a weird ass video.
Eddie Murphy, I just wanted to kill.
This is with Sammy Davis.
What?
Oh, this little random show on Netflix. Comedians.
Yeah, where comedians
in the car
cars,
getting coffee with the Jerry Seinfeld. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's a little clip where he talks about Sammy here.
Watch that. The devil. We were in Dan Tannen's on that restaurant with all the pictures of him. Sammy was like, Satan is as powerful as God. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because why do you think there's so much anger in the world and killing and murder and Satan? And he saw my reaction to it, and he kind of lightened up on it. And he was like, Dan Tanner, this dark, and it's the candles on the table, and Sandy's face over the candle. Satan is as powerful as God.
Yeah, Jerry knows exactly what he's talking about. So,
see, but like, isn't that just a weird coincidence?
So random, but yeah, that's
Eddie Murphy clowning on Satanists, the only black Satanist we know of.
Sammy Davis Jr. and he was there to hear him almost get into it, and then he backed off because. Oh, that's funny.
So, let's talk about the in-depth analysis of this Satanist cult, right? And where it leads to. So if you look at important books that are written by the inspirers of all of this religion, like Aleister Crowley, he goes back to Blavatsky, right? They all quote books from the Vedas, and they all quote books from the ancient Vedic texts of India, which is before Buddhism. Buddhism is like Christ, right? And before Buddhism, there was the Vedas, which is like super, super old text, predicted to be like, nobody knows how old it is, maybe 10,000 years or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And in these books, they write, that's like the first like demonology or the first, belief in like the devil, kind of, right? And they call it Kali. And so we can look at what is Kali. And we can see that the Krishnas is a new religion. They believe in this. Kali. It's the reigning Lord. He's a mortal demon, the source of all evil.
Indiana Jones, when he rips the guy's heart out, he says Kalima.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's related, but
there's another video I have here of a sacrifice where they're chanting Kali, God Kali. It's a part of the satanic rituals for a lot of secret societies. But the reason why I bring that up is because it always goes back to that. Because if we look at Aryan beliefs in the occult, we can look at Albert Pike. He's one guy who was inspired by all of this, all these writings, right? Mm-hmm. He was a Freemason one of the highest degree, 33rd degree Mason, right?
I don't know what that means, but it sounds like he's been at it for a long time.
Yeah, he's a 33rd degree Mason, and he founded the KKK. No, he didn't found it, but he participated in it. You can say, that's where they get a lot of their robes from. This, like, these people also get some of their beliefs from some of that. I mean, look, that's just like, this is the LGBTQ in the future.
All the colors of the rainbow.
With hoods.
And all the letters of the alphabet.
Yeah, but so what does this have to do with India? You know, what does Satan have to do with India? Well, we know that everyone reads these old Vedic texts. Everyone who's a Satanist, right? But we know that the Beatles went to worship this cult, Maharishi, this particular guru, who then was later discovered to have been involved in some crazy child shit too.
God, why?
Yeah, and then there was some crazy shit that happened. There was murders that happened from
why
that.
Everybody like kids?
Look, killing for Krishna, the danger of deranged devotion, right? So in this in this drama, what happened was the Beatles and all these people went to go hang out with this particular guru, right?
Yep.
Here's some of the symbolism. I mean, you tell me. I mean, it looks the same to me. You know, they worship Kali. It's all part of the same deal. But let's look at some of the stuff that happened in accordance to this crazy conspiracy. The first is George Harrison makes a song called "My Sweet Lord," which chants Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, and we know that mantra is part of the Transcendental Meditation Movement, or ISKCON. It's all the same thing, right? David Lynch, of all people.
Did Maharishi personally teach you?
He's a big contributor to that religion. He has the David Lynch Foundation, which gives money to the Krishna movement.
So what happened then, we went to Bangor in Wales, and we attended a little seminar there. And as you know, there were always lots of flowers around Maharishi. So it's always a very, nature was very involved. You got the feeling, he often used to carry. The whole place was very simple. There was nothing fancy about it. You would just wake up, you would then go for breakfast in the morning, a light breakfast. Just help. That was the sort of thing that happened each day.
Did you write, how many songs did you write in Rishikesh, do you think?
We wrote quite a few between us. Yeah, we had some good inspiration. And in the times when we weren't meditating, we had our guitars with us.
Right.
So we would do quite a little bit of writing. It was inspirational.
Yes, I mean,
it was.
This is them at the talking about being there. So it's pretty crazy to see what this heart.
First of all, it's a real.
And the air out in here.
When did you first hear the word meditation, and what did you make of it?
Seen him when we were kids growing up in Liverpool. He was giving a lecture, a little more serious, which wasn't a bad thing, but he put humor. But he had a very infectious sense of humor.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't talk about how they beefed and they bounced, though. Actually, no, that was John Lennon who beefed with that guy and then took off.
Oh.
Yeah, it was some crazy shit that happened. But let's talk about the murders that happened because of in that cult when they came to America. Because they eventually made it to America.
Yeah.
And some crazy shit happened. But basically, there was this guy named Stephen Bryant, right? This guy basically he was gonna blow the whistle and say, hey, the Hare Krishnas are abusing children, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what did they do? They killed him. They sent 2 guys.
The guy was about to rat them out.
Yep, they sent 2
and
guys to trail him.
Smoked him.
Yeah, and they killed him. In L.A.
Did anyone get arrested for
Yeah,
that?
yeah. The guys got arrested for that. They went to jail for murder. But the crazy thing is that after that, those guys got busted. One of those fucking gurus that was responsible for that, the guy who was being alleged did all of the raping.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, he also he got busted, but he got indicted, but he ended up just leaving the country. You know, like most of these people do, they just dip.
Mm-hmm.
Krishna killer. Named Guru.
That's not good. Swami.
So let's see if we can get to the part where he says that. See, it's about the Krishna consciousness movement, right? So here, let's get into it. They were convicted in for the murder of that Krishna devotee, right? So they were convicted. And then they opened up investigations when then they found all this child molestation accusations, right? And then that guy took off. There's even books about it. There's whole books about the murder and everything. Murder, madness, and the Hare Krishnas. See?
Monkey on a stick.
Yeah, so it's not far off.
Is that guns?
Yeah,
with
those
flowers
are guns.
next to
Yeah.
it? Ooh.
It's the gun that was used.
Man.
So what does that have to do with the Beatles and all this shit? Well, all these people were part of it. And here we have a very interesting debate between the Hare Krishnas and what some people consider deprogramming.
Divine Grace, Hridyananda Das Goswami, and Balavanta. We're going to be using a modified debate format, and for the first segment of tonight's program, we're going to turn to the representatives from the Society for Krishna Consciousness and give them a few moments to express statements about their religion. Then following their statement, we'll turn to Mr. Patrick and Sandra Sachs, and we'll be talking about efforts that are being made to counteract certain practices which you disagree with. First of all, let's begin by raising this question. I think that practically, if not all, practically all, perhaps all the...
So look, he talks about...
What you just said, first of all, we are not competing with or trying to...
He just explains what is Hare Krishna, right? He makes it sound all
Different
cool.
states may have some slight variation, but...
You know, they go on to talk about their religion, why it's so good, et cetera, right? But let's listen to the testimony of the black dude and how he claps back at what his perception of this religion is and his story, because that's really the part of this video that's interesting.
Turn to Mr. Patrick, and I'd like to ask you how you got into what's called deprogramming.
Well, I got into deprogramming through my own son. He was 14 years old. Now, if someone had told me 10 years ago that this could have happened in my family, I would have called him a lie. But it happened to the very one I would say it would be the last one it would happen to. All outdoor boy, nothing keep him in the house. And he was psychological kidnapped by Occult. And they only had him for 4 hours. But after that 4 hours, it was somebody I didn't even know. When he walked in the door, I thought he was on drugs. And he told me what happened. He talked to some people on the street. They asked him, did he believe in God? Did he have Christ in his heart? Did he know Christ died on the cross for his sins? And he talked to him for about 4 hours. Didn't know he was hooked. And after talking to them, he was lucky they didn't take him away. But he made it back to the hotel. And we had been everywhere looking for him.
Yeah.
And when he came in, the first thing I noticed was his eyes, just like he was high for drugs. And that was the first thing I thought about. And he told me his story, what happened. Then anyone believed what he was saying. It was unbelievable, unbelievable. I didn't believe him, then anyone in the room believed him. I didn't know I even had a problem for about 2 weeks when a lady came into my office and turned in a complaint that her son was last seen the same day they got my son. And when she told me her story, what happened to her son, they got him. And he disappeared from the face of the earth. For 5 days, she didn't know whether or not he was living or dead. And no one would help her. She called the police. The police said, how old is your son? 19. He's not a missing person. He's a runaway. Everybody gave her that story. And then when she finally got the telephone call, Mom, I found God. I'm not coming home anymore. You all is of the devil. And the world is going to end within a year to 7 years. And if you're not in this family, you're going to burn in hell. And after talking to her, I realized what happened to my son, what was wrong with my son. And I started an investigation into this matter. And I went into everything, interviewing people on tapes, witches, warlocks, you name it. I even went to New Orleans. Somebody that was 100-some years old that my mother kept me to when I was a child for my speech impediment, see. And this lady was still living, which she was supposed to have been a healer and a prophet and all of this, be able to heal people. And I even went and talked to her. And I still wasn't satisfied. It was still unbelievable. I had to go in to see for myself. And I went in to stay a week. I stayed 3 days and 4 nights. 3 nights and, 4 nights and 3 days. And if I had stayed in a few more hours, I would never left. I was hooked. And I was so confused for the next 6 days. I left home one day at 7:30 in the morning, going to the office. I ended up 70 miles away, didn't know how I got there. I didn't even know where I were or how to get home. And this is how powerful this technique is, a mind control.
You think that these groups have techniques of mind control that you feel are dangerous?
Yes, Hare Krishna is one of the main ones. And they use the same technique. It's no different from Guyana, Jim Jones. It's no different from Hitler. It's no different from any group in the world that uses this mind control.
Now, I've jotted down a few notes. I'm very sympathetic to the experience which Mr. Patrick had. I will not disagree with him that there are many people at the present time in the Western world who are exploiting people in the name of religion. I don't disagree with him. I'm very sorry if he was a victim of some bad experience, but that was not our group.
What you're looking at, a mindless robot. For an example, the young man over there right now, he just sitting over there chanting Hare Krishna, which is self-hypnosis. And he got his hand in the bead bag. And he just, ever since he's been here, he's been chanting Hare Krishna. Now, this is his life's blood. He got to chant. And because if he doesn't chant or get away from the influence, he'll start thinking. And this is the reason he's sitting over there chanting, because this prevents him from thinking. See, the only way you can control a person's mind, you got to destroy the person's free will and their ability to think. And then you got to make it impossible for this person to think throughout the rest of their life other than what the leader tell them to do. And that's where it turns into autosuggestion, which means self-hypnosis. In Hare Krishna case, it's chanting. They chant almost 24 hours a day.
We're chanting names of God, and that's recommended in every scripture in the world, that God's name should always be chanted.
I believe in the Christian scripture, Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount said, use not meaningless repetition.
But the name of God is not meaningless. And the Lord's Prayer clearly states.
Yeah, but it doesn't say. It says the Bible says do not worship don't worship any false idols. Don't chant anyone's name. God doesn't have a name. That's what it says. So this is ridiculous. But regardless of whether you're Christian or whatever, that's even Buddhism and Jesus, they're very alike. They're like the new coming of the religions, and they both practice the same things. They say, you're not supposed to fall under dictatorships or worshiping of all these false religions. You're supposed to think of all these other more transcendental thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And so these guys are taking it way back to the Vedas, which is ancient scriptures. The Hare Krishnas, they have this cult of autosuggestion, and it makes a lot of sense. Just think about it. If you're a young, suggestible person, right? These guys, what they do is they get all these people to go to the streets and beg for money. They have a huge panhandling operation, and they keep these kids unfed. They make them sleep in minimal settings, and they give them, barely enough food. And it's the same thing that Charles Manson did in a way. He kind of suggested these things to these kids to get them to be in his environment. Yeah,
weak-minded kids
using drugs or whatever it may be.
Really have a good path.
It's no coincidence that all of them were victims to other forms of suggestion, like Satanism and the occult. Before they got to Charles Manson. Yeah, that's exactly right. So the Hare Krishnas is kind of you can see this is the beginning of all of it. It's part of the whole hippie movement. This is where it went south.
Oh,
you know.
So this is where wanted to participate.
Yeah,
because they're oh yeah.
What are the Hare Krishnas now? We ask ourselves, where are they now?
Where are they now?
multi-billion-dollar religion.
Ew.
David Lynch is a big part of it. They still exist, even through all the scandals. They're still around. It's actually fucking incredible that they're still around. So that's the kind of the connection between ancient Vedic texts and Satanism, kind of how it's all related, right? So, and then, and if we watch, we can't play it because we'll get copyrighted, but on Netflix, there's a clip on the new Mindhunter episode 5 of Mindhunter.
Of season 2.
Of season 2. There's a clip where they're studying Charles Manson, and he tells them, the helter-skelter theory, he didn't think of it. He borrowed it from the Hare Krishnas. That's a Hare Krishna theory. The whole idea of helter-skelter, the whole
they
scenario.
Actually mentioned that
in the show they mentioned
so
it.
It's not a secret.
It's not a secret. That's what happened. And so Manson, he gained these powers of persuasion from other people who taught him, like the Scientologists and all these people. He just kind of borrowed philosophies from here and there. And then he created his own little DIY fucking group,
including the Beatles song.
And he brought the Beatles into it and everything. Why? Because he understood kind of what they were about. He understood that they were a part of this shit,
Yeah,
and he understood that the whole Roman Polanski, Mia Farrow thing, there's no reason why he shouldn't understand it if he was directly involved in their murders. You'd be a fool to try and think, oh, those things are not interrelated. Of course they're interrelated. You know what I mean? It's no coincidence that Martin Luther King was also murdered in 1968. Yeah.
Wait,
Martin Luther King was also murdered in 1968. In the same year, that Robert F. Kennedy was murdered. That's ridiculous.
Damn.
These people in the 60s, they were on some shit.
Right.
They were on some shit. Who knows what was going on? Some kind of metaphysical war, between everyone. People wanted to come out on top. It's pretty crazy, right? So there's all this stuff, right? Then there's also, if you want to know about other things, the 4Pi movement, 4P, it was a splinter of the Process Church, which also is a splinter of the Church of Scientology, right? They had direct relations with killing Dobermans and German Shepherd dogs and all these satanic religions and shit, right? And and sacrifices with dogs. This is what these people were into. The 4P, a splinter of the Process Church. Now let's keep that in mind, right? A splinter of the Process Church. Now let's talk about where is the Process Church today. You're not gonna believe what they do today.
Oh no, what is it?
Best Friends Animal Society is an American nonprofit animal welfare organization.
What?
Yeah, they rescue dogs, and they have a no-kill animal rescue here in Los Angeles. It's a Los Angeles animal shelter,
So they
one of the
went
biggest
from
kinds.
sacrificing Dobermans and German Shepherds to,
Yeah.
and to becoming an animal sanctuary.
This is straight off of Wikipedia. Look, the group originated in Arizona, developing from the Foundation Faith of the Millennium, a religious group formerly known as
the Process Church.
yeah. This is them.
This is
them now. They own an animal sanctuary. You want to guess how much money they made in 2016? Jesus. $87 million. $87 million, Jen. That's how much money they were able to create with this stupid bestfriends.org. Fucking.
I mean.
And they supposedly euthanize dogs, you know, and they provide spaying and neutering, and they save dogs and shit like that.
Yeah.
It's like, really? That's like Planned Parenthood selling fetuses to like science and doctors for them to use the organs. This is the same thing. These guys are probably using these dogs, continuing what they're doing, just in more secrecy, you know?
That's crazy
Yeah.
because, I mean, you know, oh, that's nice. They provide for the community. They're helping animals out. But then at the same time, they could also be getting their other shit on the side done as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah.
then everyone can leave them alone.
That's another strange connection, right? So, and then we know this is actually false, that Anton LaVey played the role of Satan in Rosemary's Baby. That's not true. So I'm going to correct
They
this.
wish.
That's definitely not true. So that never happened. But Sammy Davis Jr., we know he was a Satanist who hung out with them. He said that, in quote, everyone there had at one time or another been into Satanism. And he's referring to people that were killed at Cielo Drive. So Sammy Davis Jr. said this at the time.
Ain't a secret.
You know, so like, we're not making huge leaps here.
Mm-mm.
This is like, you know, it makes kind of sense. And then going back to the white supremacist, you know, Nazism and Blavatsky, and you guys should read more books about Blavatsky because that's who inspired Hitler, and who inspired the creators of the KKK. You know, they were into Nordic language, right? And then the Zodiac Killer, of course, that's how he wrote his letters.
Yep.
You know, and let's not forget that he used the symbol with the cross, and the circle as well. You know, so that's another link that we can kind of point at. Here's another faction called the Black Cross. Is said to operate as a kind of satanic murder incorporated, right? Child pornography, narcotics. Again, goes back to the 4P. But then check this out. The 4P is an offshoot of the Process Church.
Mm-hmm.
Who was involved with it? David Berkowitz, the son of Sam.
No way.
He's involved with the 4Pi. He says himself that he claims that the Sam murders had been a group action and that he had been selected to be the fall guy. He says that the group was a satanic cult called the 4Pi. To support his allegations, he shared unpublished facts about the ritual murder that happened in Stanford of a college student. And the murder still remains officially unsolved. So he gave information about another murder to prove his allegations that it was the 4Pi. He knows about the 4Pi branch of the Process Church, the people who kill dogs. Berkowitz is saying that he was part of this. Like, this is all in another book called The Ultimate Evil, written by another girl who takes into account specifically this branch of the Process Church called the 4Pi. She talks only about that and David Berkowitz. So that's another thing to think about. Here they talk more again about the 4 Pi killing German Shepherds and Dobermans. Killing specifically Dobermans and German Shepherds. This is the only hounds that they would sacrifice. Probably because they're Germanic dogs, you know, from the Caucasus Mountains.
I mean, I guess.
So again, like bringing in more of the connections.
Yeah.
Filmmaker Kenneth Anger and Bobby Beausoleil.
Old creepy.
They made movies together,
Creepy
but
guy.
they were also homosexually attracted to each other.
Who?
Yeah, they were.
Who?
They did that.
Anger and who? Boozle.
Yeah.
Wasn't he like really young?
Yeah.
Age did not matter apparently back in the day. Mia Farrow married Frank Sinatra. He was 50 and she's 21. Nobody cared.
And back to the same theory, overlapping theory of everything, right? Or a helter-skelter. What is it? It's the theory that there's going to be a race war between whites and blacks, and Charles Manson was supposed to help make that happen, according to Bugliosi in his book, because Charles Manson never actually said that. But, you know, this is, again, Charles Manson refers to chapter 9, right? In Book of Revelations, the sun, the light from the sky comes down to and he gets the key to hell, the key to the bottoms of earth. It's talking about Lucifer in Revelations chapter 9, and here is this is the interpretation by Charles Manson. As he opened the bottomless pit, and there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. For him, the locusts were the Beatles, right? And he was going to prevail, and he was going to go to the underground city for Helter Skelter, right? This is all like very clear. He's like, and the locust faces were as the faces of men, and they had the hair as the hair of women. And he considers this to be the Beatles because they had long hair.
Long hair. Okay.
Right? And so then he talks about all of this. Their breastplates of fire is their electric guitars, etc., right? So this is like his interpretation of chapter 9, which we know the Beatles had a song called Revolution 9, right? And we know that this really is a book of Revelations, and we know that Charles Manson really did talk about chapter 9. It's not bullshit. So, you know, those are just some of the things. Oh, this also, too, Pan. We all know the god Pan, if anyone's into the occult or conspiracy theories. It's an ancient, you know, pagan worship of the horned god, right? And Wicca. So it's just kind of like a European version of Satanism. And this is mentioned throughout, and like everything that we just talked about, all these people in their books, they all write about Pan. It's just another version
like
of
Pan's
Satan.
Labyrinth?
Sure, yeah.
Sorry, I don't know. I'm stupid. It's like
And remember,
only
Jack
reference I can
Parson.
make.
Jack Parson was in the movie with in Kenneth Anger's movie with Bobby Beausoleil. The rocket scientist at the end of the film makes a reference to this rocket scientist, right? He was also an occultist, and he did all of this shit as well. And he also hung out with L. Ron Hubbard and shit. So this is all the same deal. So all part of the same thing. Lucifer Rising, the movie with Bobby Beausoleil. I don't think have I played that movie yet? No? Maybe we should play that next. So people could get an idea. Here it talks about when the Process Church arrived in 1968, right? The Process members worked for some people at a particular house, and that was a few blocks away from Roman Polanski. And Manson there also lived there for a while. So again, another place where all of them were at all at the same time. Process Church, Polanski, and Manson. Those are kind of like the three pinnacles of this movement, if you think about it. Anton LaVey and Michael Aquino and San Francisco was kind of like doing its own thing, you know, but there were connections. But down here, it was definitely different. So look, Robert Kennedy was assassinated, right? Sirhan, the assassin, he has studied mysticism and was a devotee of Madame Blavatsky, which is the woman who's the inspiration for Hitler. And
What?
Yeah. And she also studied the ancient Vedas and all that ancient shit that has to do with Kali. So this guy studied Blavatsky, and the night before Robert Kennedy was murdered, we know this, he had dinner with Sharon Tate and her husband. And then a few months later, they were all killed by Charles Manson.
Wow. A few months later.
A few months later, not even a year later. Like they were killed. Robert F. Kennedy was killed in 1968. He was at their house, and then like a few months, almost like I think like 9 months later, then they kill everyone at that house. Crazy, right?
Fuck.
And then back to Boys Town.
Kill them all.
And Boys Town and all the sex shit going on. Larry King, and all that shit.
Ugh.
Paul Bonacci. So this is where it's at. This is what's going on. This is the book called The Ultimate Evil. You see Charles Manson and Berkowitz on the cover. Why are they related? Because of the 4P and the Process Church. That's why they're related. And this is an account of that. I haven't read this yet, but I downloaded the ebook, and I'll probably eventually read it.
Check it out.
Again, look, Albert Pike, one of the guys who founded the KKK, 33rd degree Mason of America, a very important American, right? He wrote a book called Irano-Aryan Faith and Doctrine, as contained in the Zend Avesta, which is, as we know, an ancient Vedic text of Zoroastrianism, of the occult. Albert Pike was studying the occult. He was a 33rd degree Mason, and he was a founding father of the KKK and a big part of the South. Hollywood Babylon, books about this is all like literature, that is important to the subject for you to kind of understand more what's going on here. Things that have to do with Hollywood. And of course we know what Babylon means. The ancient city of Babylon, which was where they worshiped the devil. Nimrod. Here in that book, Hollywood and Babylon, we could see direct links between the White Legion, which is the Ku Klux Klan, but in LA. Did you know that we had KKK here, but it was called the White Legion?
I heard about that.
Yeah, people in Hollywood were all about that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we know all these things about the Process Church and the movie Lucifer Rising, all these connections, even just becoming strengthened by all these little clippings. Also Sharon Tate.
King of the Witches.
Yeah. Alex Sanders, which was a protege of Crowley, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had initiated Sharon Tate into witchcraft while they were filming Eye of the Devil. So that's how she became involved in satanic stuff.
Because of her first movie.
Yeah, because of her first movie. That's how she got into it.
Well.
Here's Woody Allen's sexual allegations.
I mean, being an actor, they get super involved and they start being that so that they can fit the role. Like, it's a weird psychological thing that I'm sure every actor has to go through to put themselves in the character's position, and then it just becomes them sometimes.
And then, they go too far.
Like Heath Ledger, they said that before he played the Joker, he locked himself in the hotel room and read a bunch of Batman comics and just, stayed in a hotel room for like a whole week with no windows or whatever to make himself a little crazy to get prepared for the role. And that's what happened to him. And then, he ended up overdosing or something after they filmed the movie because he lost his mind. Yeah.
Whack.
No, that's just an example of like actors going through the extreme to fit the role, and then it just like becomes them.
It's possible.
So they just lose their fucking minds. It's Hollywood.
Or it could be that they pursue this type of.
Or that, yeah, or that's what they're into.
Because I mean, look, like Woody Allen touching children's private parts.
Oh well.
Mia Farrow involved in this. You know, this is just too fucking weird. This is straight off of Wikipedia too. This isn't fucking.
I don't know.
You know.
No secret. Not a secret.
See again another.
Everyone's
quote.
Favorite occultist, Aleister Crowley.
Yeah, because he's the man when it comes to this stuff.
Oh, what's this? Lennon wrote and recorded Happiness is a Warm Gun, which contains sexual reference to Ono. Lennon's divorce from Studios girl Ono became pregnant, but she suffered the miscarriage of a male child.
He was with another girl.
68.
Yeah, that's when they met at that Indica place.
I mean, I like that song, but that's not like what's wrong with that song? Huh.
Lennon was invited to play for Frank Zappa, which we know is a Satanist, at Fillmore, at the Fillmore, in San Francisco.
Oh.
Right.
We live near there.
Yeah, in the Fillmore we live.
Oh, we live.
So Eric Clapton was studying with. Oh, look, Eric Clapton also studied with Maharishi.
Eric Clapton.
Yeah.
You see, they're all over there.
They're all over there chilling.
In the late 60s. In the late 60s, it was just like, it was just a thing. Oops, shit. It was just a thing at the time. Everyone's just like, yeah, you should check it out. And everybody's like, yeah, okay. Everyone and their moms are like, yeah, I'm going to go there. Imagine what regular people did, seeing all these celebrities get inspired by this guru and whatever. I'm sure regular people like us probably went over there too. But they're, you know, nobody cares about what regular people do. But all the celebrities were over there.
And doing things that they probably should have stayed away from.
Yeah, but trying to encourage, you know, it would make regular folk want to do it too, because that's just how people are. That's what celebrities get paid for, to advertise, to get people.
And that's what Charles Manson thought. He thought that the Beatles were a psyop, and that they were trying to incite war and all these things. Yeah, here's and they kind of were doing. They were kind of a big part of the hippie movement at the time. Here's the quote that that she played the white chess set, Yoko Ono, and that Tate and Roman Polanski visited the shop several times.
Oh, okay, that's the article that describes that.
Yeah, there's a little clip from that just in case.
They never bought the piece. They just went there to play it, but they never bought it.
See, look, the Indica Gallery is best known for where Yoko Ono first met John Lennon in 1966.
Mm-hmm.
See? Lennon particularly liked Yoko's ceiling painting. So that's also true. That's how they met. At this occult shop and bookstore and gallery. Right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a crazy thing right here too. This girl Marianne got with Mick Jagger.
Okay.
And then she starred in a role for the movie Lucifer Rising with Anton LaVey and all that shit, right?
Co-star was Donald Cammell, who would go on to produce notorious film performance starring Mick Jagger and Sir Stone Shagger and Anita Pallenberg.
And this dude wrote biographies on the Beatles and Aleister Crowley. And Bobby Beausoleil created the soundtrack for that movie. I mean, we know that already. Here's the Indica Bookshop again, where all this shit happened.
Huh.
Right?
Yeah. McCartney propagandist.
See, this is a funny thing right here, that the Indica Bookshop was funded by Ian Iachimo. Right? And from looking up that name, Ian Iachimo, he's kind of has some relations to like Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma. Crazy.
Freemasonry.
Yeah, the Key of Solomon. These are all books that these people read. The complete astrological writings.
Satanic Bible. Sander. Okay.
Michael Aquino wrote this book.
They're
Right?
writing books. spreading the word of their Lord and Savior.
Yeah, here's the Vendita, the books that inspired them.
Oh.
I can show those. But yeah, in relation to
that's Sharon Tate riding a missile.
Yeah.
A rocket,
because
whatever.
her father was in the army or whatever.
Ah.
So just think about that. Those are some crazy, what we want to call, or what other people would want to call coincidences or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Clearly there's relationships between all these people, you know.
Oh, yes.
There's clearly, they definitely
no
played with each
doubt
other
about
in one way or another. They definitely were all involved. So to just say that this shit was random and that that they were just kids that Manson controlled is fucking out of this world to say something like that. It doesn't make any sense to say that. It makes way more sense to say.
Yeah, and to not question, like, how did Manson get charged for first-degree murder for 7 different people?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Without committing murder directly.
And the life of people is it's strange, you know. I get that people are famous and stuff happens to them, but sometimes it gets way out of hand. Like, for example, like George Harrison, one of the Beatles. Later on in time, he got shanked up by
Must have been about 4:30 in the morning.
By some rando dude that broke into their house.
Said somebody's smashed a window.
Is that his wife?
How do you
Yeah.
know? I said, I heard it. So he jumped up, and I ran to the door, and I locked the door. And he said, why are you locking the door? I said, why? Because I'm afraid. That's why I'm locking the door. He said, no. I'm going out there. And so he ran downstairs, which he really didn't have to do, but he felt he had to do because my mother was upstairs, and he didn't want, he didn't know if she was okay. We had a statue of St. Michael, and the wing from the statue of St. Michael was made of stone, had been thrown through the window. And George was on one side and I was on the other, and we looked down, and this maniac just ran in like a Beelzebub.
All right. Just listen to her talk about this account. First of all, she has a statue of Michael outside, which is the angel that defeats Lucifer.
Uh-huh.
So there's already one satanic reference. And then she says he runs in like a maniac, like Beelzebub. And Beelzebub is another reference for Satan.
Yeah.
So she's already made 2 references to Satan, and she just started talking about this knife attack.
St. Michael in one hand, he slays the dragon with his spear. He had that in one hand, and I didn't see what he had in the other. But anyway, George started chanting really loud at him.
What?
And
Oh,
this guy was
chanting
really loud. I looked at the transcripts in the Wikipedia of what he was chanting. He was yelling at the guy, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, the chant for transcendental meditation. That's what he was yelling at the dude. Like, what? That's not gonna do shit. You're still gonna get shanked, my boy. Like, stop, you know. Like, your transcendental meditation God's not gonna help you today.
Scene will look like a fucking
just imagine that.
hippie situation.
Just imagine that. This is what's going on.
You just yell at a crazy person, peace and love, and then they're trying to rob you. You just say peace and love.
Bowels of hell.
I mean, I'm sure that.
There, she makes another reference to hell.
Just like this voice from the bowels of hell. And
that's just weird.
ran
I don't know if I'm reaching at this. I don't want to sound like some fucking conspiracy theories.
Psychotic state, and
that's the fucking guy.
Tall and young. And they'd come closer to where the room was, and this man was on top of George, trying to kill him, just laying on him in just, I think, the worst way to have some, physical contact with some horrible person. Anyway, I just ran back in the room, and I don't know, something just took over, and I grabbed a poker. My dad was a big baseball fan, and he used to always say, follow through. That's all I could think of was, don't throw like a girl.
She beat him up?
Yeah,
I mean,
she
it
did
got
that with the
worse.
fire
It just
poker.
got worse because I hit the guy several times. You know, I could see the blood spreading down his blonde hair, and then he got up. You know, he got up and he chased me and had me around the neck, and then George got up and jumped on his back.
Wow, that's
and poor George,
crazy.
he said, you know, God, just when he got off of me, I was thinking, oh, good. Then I had to get up and fight him again, and he'd already been stabbed. But we all fell into a big pile, and I managed to get out from underneath, and George pinned him down, and George said to me, I've got the knife. And I thought, what knife? You know, I didn't know. I thought he was just kidding. I thought he was just trying to fake the guy out, saying, I've got the knife. It's like, I hadn't seen that. Afterwards, we were taken to a good old National Health Hospital with these rickety wheelchairs at 4 in the morning, and it was like freezing. It was so cold.
See, isn't that trippy?
Could go.
It was the millennium, and we were staying in Santa Barbara with some friends, and then this awful news came through. I said to Tanya, we have to go, and so I called up and said, do you...
Eric Idle.
Should we come? And he said, where are you? So we got on a plane and came immediately.
And Libby and it's got to take it out of you, you know.
The whole idea of, you know, if you have something happen to you physically, then, you know, people can go in hospital or have my body, you know, in an hour's time.
That's just so trippy, see? Just another example of some weird shit that doesn't happen to everyone, you know, but happens to these people. And people are always going to say, oh, you know, there's just crazy people out there and they're famous, and so, you know, people do stupid shit. And it's like, yeah, but what percentage of that would affect the Beatles in the way that it has, you know? Like, John Lennon got smoked, and then this dude gets stabbed and he dies 1 year later, you know? They're all involved in all this fucking voodoo shit.
But Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr got to live.
Yeah, who knows what the fuck, you know? Maybe they weren't involved in anything. They got off.
Or what did they not do? Yeah.
So, I mean, in case everyone else is interested, there's so much literature and videos you can watch. There's a movie called Cease to Exist, which is a Charles Manson, Beach Boys connection. There's the Boys Town Conspiracy of Silence. It's like a whole 2-hour movie. You could watch that. You could watch Satan's Bed, which is Yoko Ono's movie. It's like 2 hours long. You could watch all the Charles Manson interviews to know and understand everything that happened there. I got 2 of the interviews here that are really interesting that we don't have time to play right now. There's just so much. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, well, there's Lucifer Rising, which is the Kenneth Anger movie that everyone should watch. It has Anton LaVey in it.
I need to watch that.
And Bobby Beausoleil made the soundtrack to it. You know, there's Invocation of My Demon Brother, another crazy movie. Obviously, Rosemary's Baby. Obviously, Eye of the Devil. You know, obviously, some of
Once
these,
Upon a Time in Hollywood. Might as well, as that's the newest one out.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Watch that. Definitely also watch all the interviews with Michael Aquino and how he explains what Satanism is to him and how he's involved in the military. Watch all the Polanski movies. Besides Rosemary's Baby, you know? He also made the movie, and maybe I'll play a clip of it here. I think we do have it. I'm sure.
Which one?
Everyone has seen the newest Satan movie that he...
With Johnny Depp?
Yeah.
The Ninth Gate.
Yeah, this movie again. What a coincidence. Roman Polanski comes back after many years of not making film, and he makes this.
Shit, that's scary.
May I take a
1989.
look? All my own rare editions have the same protagonist, the devil. Only the supreme masterpiece was missing.
The Nine Gates is a kingdom of shadows.
Again, Nine
Book
Gates.
reputed to have been written by Satan himself.
I want you to go to Europe. I want you to get it for me.
You mean the devil won't show up?
Reputed to conjure up the Prince of Darkness in person.
Some books are dangerous.
You don't know what you're getting yourself into, Mr. Corso. Get out before it's too late.
I'm afraid it already is.
At last the key will unlock the ninth gate. To travel in silence, to brave the arrows of misfortune, and fear neither noose nor fire.
It's very corny.
Men who have been burned alive.
It's 1999.
Yeah.
Of what you are about to witness.
I mean, come
Wow, that's really,
You know?
really up to date at the time for Roman Polanski.
Yeah,
he's trying to keep up with all the other Mission Impossible, all the other
1999
explosion movies at the
time. It was a corny year.
Yeah.
The movie's not that, like, that's just the trailer, you know?
Yeah,
the
I know,
movie's
that's just the trailer.
chill.
Well,
But,
I mean,
you know,
you saw it. I didn't see it yet. I need to watch it.
I watched it when it came out a long time ago, and, you know, I was a little kid.
Yeah, I remember seeing the cover everywhere, but I never knew what it was or bothered looking into it.
So there's that. Watch that.
Mhm.
You know, of course, learn about the hippie movement in general, LSD, where it came from.
Mhm.
You know, drugs, the Vietnam War. All of these things have a lot to do with this. You know, this didn't just pop up out of nowhere. You know,
Yep.
it all has everything to do with all of this. I would say definitely read some of the books that we posted on here that, you know, say a lot.
Wasn't there a book that you had by Aleister Crowley?
Yeah, somebody borrowed it and didn't give it back.
What was it called again?
Magic.
With a K.
Magick. Yeah, that's you know, their way of describing sex magic, and they basically that's the correlation between all of this sacrifice and sexual abuse of children. It has to do with this sex magic. Like, it's in their books. It's written in the Bible, in the Satanic Bible, and all these things. It's part of the whole deal. Like, sexual power.
That's
it's actually
crazy.
It's written in the Bible too. The Buddha talks about it as well. Sexual energy, it needs to be conquered through Kundalini and all these things. It needs to be used for transcendental enlightenment instead of like humanistic, animalistic desire. But these people believe in the opposite of that. They believe that you should use sexual energy for that. Like, you should just use it for what it wants you to do. You should give into it.
There's always like the opposite side of whatever.
Sure, yeah, the opposite side of everything.
Even though it wouldn't be fair to say that Satan is the opposite of God.
Here's another crazy video
Right?
that also kind of shows some connections. You should just watch this whole series. It's called Sharon, Tate, the Beatles, Charles Manson, Satanism, and Hollywood. It's exactly what we're talking about. So,
as the scared pregnant girl in his new horror film. But because they were romantically involved, he thought it would be improper to make the suggestion himself. He hoped someone at Paramount would bring up Sharon's name. They never did. The part went to Mia Farrow, and Filmways loaned Sharon to 20th Century Fox for the movie version of Jacqueline Suzanne's trashy novel of Hollywood debauchery, Valley of the Dolls.
Sharon Tate as Jennifer. International sex symbol, victimized by everyone. She took the blue pills.
Oh, to hell with him. Let him droop.
And honey, let's face it. All I know how to do is take off my clothes.
Publicity for the film played up her similarity to the character. Sharon sarcastically referred to her new image as sexy little me. With the release of Rosemary's Baby, Mia Farrow would receive rave reviews as a talented newcomer, and Roman would be lauded as a brilliant auteur. The late 1960s were a time of new openness, sexual liberation, drugs and politics all mixed together, and the party seemed almost too good to last. Settled in their beachfront house, Sharon and Roman became a fixture in the late 60s Hollywood in crowd. They took kung fu lessons from Bruce Lee. They had dinner with Senator Robert Kennedy the night of his assassination.
June 5th, 1968. The Ambassador Hotel, Los Angeles.
Ridiculous, right? Like, she can't make this shit up. You know what I mean? It's right there for you to see.
After event.
It's right there for you to see. It's just weird. You know? There's also, like, in case we were wondering, is it true that Sharon Tate's dad was, you know, part of the military? Like, the mom talks about it in an interview here. Doris Tate, after, you know, years after or whatever. Like, shut up.
For the new baby.
Oh, it was part 2. Yeah, but this is another one that everyone should watch. All of this stuff we're skimming over, of course. You know, most people should.
And to help her in her last month of pregnancy.
You were in Los Angeles.
I was in Los Angeles when this occurred. I was never notified by the police, and I'm not sure that I don't thank God that I was not notified first, okay, because I could have been. They did know that Sharon's father was stationed in the Presidio in San Francisco, so they...
See?
Yeah.
Out of her own words.
Yep.
He was stationed in the
Confirmed.
Presidio in San Francisco. Illuminati confirmed. See, you can't make it up. You know, this is just some of the correlations. But
how long has it been already?
There's also this movie called The Second Gun: Assassination of Robert F. Kennedy. Another one that people should watch. I'm not gonna play the whole thing right now. It's an hour and 40 minutes long. But watch this as well. It goes into depth. All the details of how Robert F. Kennedy was killed, including the fact that he had dinner with Roman Polanski, and they actually find that kind of suspicious. And they should, right? Because it's weird. But here's the theory, the Peter Folger theory, from some random fucking... Look, here's he was part of these guys, you know, this squadron or whatever, right? He flew this airplane, you know, so there's all kinds of stuff about Peter Folger out there. You know, there's stuff about Michael Aquino in regards to how it fits into everything as well. So, you know, just do some Googling. You can find all of this information. I would post links everywhere, but then it's just, I mean, you can see how many links are in here. Just too many. So, you know, that's another thing to look at. There's also protests that happened at the Presidio while Michael Aquino was there, 1968, same time. These dudes, they just staged a protest for, you know, anti-Vietnam protest kind of thing, right? This all happened in the Presidio as well. And some people went to jail for dissent. So, of course, the government always wins.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing to look into. And I don't want to go into the crazy nitty-gritty. We're not doing that today, but for you guys, if you want to check that out too, there's MK Ultra, which was also based in the Presidio and in Los Angeles, and was a mind control experimentation declassified project that we now know about, that we know Michael Aquino was involved in, and other people. So, you know, a lot of people blame this whole thing on mind control. They say that all of this was a mind control experiment. This was all some crazy plot by the government to end the 60s. This is a whole plot to destroy any credibility the hippies had. They gave them drugs. They made them look violent on television. You know, they had perfect patsies to blame it all on. At the same time, they've already assassinated Martin Luther King.
Yep.
John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there's political movements of assassination going on. There's Vietnam going on. It's just like the government, the hippies were nobody to the government. There was the Black Panthers, was a much bigger problem, you know? There's some way bigger problems. The hippies were like easy to get rid of. All they had to do was murder Sharon Tate, you know, blame it on the hippies, murder some people over there, blame it on the hippies, make it all look random, even though all these people are obviously conflated in some kind of way, you know. So that's the presentation. That's the gist of it. You guys should let me know what you guys think about it in the comments. If there's any information that you thought we left out, if there's anything that you think could be added onto it, let us know. If there are any books that have any information that you think might be valuable reads, here's another one by Albert Pike, Indo-Aryan Deities and Worship as Contained in the Rig Veda, which is, again, an ancient Indo-Aryan scripture. This is written by Albert Pike, 33rd degree Mason. If you guys know of anything like this that will help fill in the gaps here, any more information that you think is useful, put in the comments, because we want to know. I'll probably put this project to rest just because I've been working on it for too long. And, you know, this is everything that I've accumulated thus far in regards to this subject. But we've been going on for a while now.
It's like 3:30 in the morning. I'm ready, like.
It's the witch.
Been awake since 6 a.m.
Yeah, I hope we didn't give off conspiratorial vibes. We don't want to be those people that are like, oh, the Illuminati, you know. But
no, this is not that at all.
You know, I want this to be informational. I want people to look at a subject that is glazed over too often, and you know, and also I don't want people to think that we're obsessed with this, because there's plenty of other people out there that are like, oh, I love Charles Manson, and they wear the shirt and shit. Oh, I love Son of Sam. Oh, I love the Zodiac Killer.
Oh yeah.
And there's all these people. Like, I want everyone to know
all the serial killers are being glorified. And put in the spotlight, and everybody's like, yeah, that's cool.
Like,
so
I dislike them greatly, you know? I'm against Satanism in every form and shape. I disagree with all of their ideology. I don't worship any of this shit. I think it's all selfish, and I go on all day long about how being selfish is not good, you know? And so, to me, all of this shit is, like, out of here. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's all like nasty and perverse. So
it's all bad. Even Charles Manson, like, sure, he didn't commit murder directly, but he still did bad things.
Yeah, he definitely,
and he shouldn't be looked up to.
These people should not be idolized.
No, they should not.
No, they should not. There shouldn't be people making money from this.
Yeah.
You know, like, even to this day, Quentin Tarantino's still making movies about this. Wasn't there a movie? What was that movie? That terrible movie with fucking, that was about Sharon Tate as well, with Hilary Duff.
Oh yeah, The Haunting of Sharon Tate.
Yeah,
that's just
garbage
that's
movie.
Just weird. I don't know why they would do that. That even came out before the Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yeah, and so there's all these people
just like recreating the deaths of people. It was weird.
And all the books that people wrote based on the subject, and Mindhunter put him in for like one episode just to build hype and sell more Mindhunter. Like, it's obnoxious, you know. Like, at the very least, like, you know, do some research and just don't aggrandize it, don't glamorize it.
Yeah.
You know, point out the intricacies of it. Sure. You know, make sure that people know the truth. That's the most valuable thing.
Or just inform yourself, just so that you know. And you know that these things were actually going on, and it happened to real people. And it, you know, I don't know if it's going on right now. We don't know about, like, I don't know. Has there been any recent
absolutely all you have to do
satanic events that have been blasted on the media?
It's the same thing that happens with people like Alex Jones. They're like, oh, Alex Jones wears a tin hat and he thinks the frogs are gay. It's like, sure, he does, but, you know, in his blabbering, he goes on about all kinds of things as well. And he points out some pretty significant facts. People just glaze him all over because it's too... People don't want to focus in, you know, and look at the truth. And it's important because that's the only way we're going to understand these complicated subjects. You know, the government's not going to tell us the truth.
Yeah.
The news and the media is not going to tell us the truth. Like, we have to read between the lines. We have to know. We have to not worship this shit. We have to not aggrandize it. We gotta make it look the way it is. You know?
I know. Just like when certain things they make people glorify, like serial killers, and then other people they try to make people hate them. So it's the same thing. Same thing. Don't just follow the fad. Actually find out the truth for yourself and just find information and know for yourself what is actually going on.
Heck yeah.
So whether you choose to love somebody or hate them, just know what's going on.
We'll be signing off now.
Good night.
That time of night.
Good morning. Goodbye.
All right. Peace, y'all.